Dun, 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 dun. You and I, just the two of us. We can make it if we try. Just the two of us. Hello. Mm-hmm. You can make it if we try. Just the two of us. You and I. Did I mute myself yet? Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Hello, hello. Hi, everyone. You can hear me, right? I'm just waiting to make sure everything's up. I think it is. Looks good there. I'm in this like weird setup because I'm moving, so everything is a little bit off right now. I'm like so uncomfortable. I'm sitting literally on a chair. No, I'm sitting on a table that is a side table as a chair. So if I completely eat it during this stream and I fall on the floor, I hope y'all enjoy that. We are yeah. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to you guys for a bit, and then in about 40 minutes, I'm going to talk to Steve, which will be really great. I am a little terrified that during this live stream, I'm going to literally fall on my face because I'm sitting on a side table. But I'm sure it won't break. I'm not sure. I'm hoping it won't break. How's everyone doing? Conrad says, Vash not being created a mod is weird. That's so cute. Honestly, I don't make you mods for a particular reason. So if anyone thinks they're a mod for a reason, it was just one time I used to be very picky about my mods. But then something went wrong with a Fresh and Fit video I was doing, and like all these people came into it. So we made a bunch of people mods to help me take care of the comments coming from that part of the internet. But yeah, it worries me that people want to be mods. When I get the inkling that someone wants to be my mod, I don't want to make them my mod. Because I'm like, why? Do you think it makes you special? Or does it mean you like have power now? It makes me uncomfortable that people want to be mods for anything other than helping the community. But if sometimes people become mods and they become very arrogant and narcissistic about it as if it means something. But I just see it as like a community effort. It's like saying, can I volunteer to keep the community safe based off the standard of the content creator? So does that make sense? Okay, wait, you guys are saying I look gorgeous, but is it just my streaming? I turned my light on a lot in the background to see if that would help. Is my stream clearer than normal? Because maybe it's that, you know what I mean? Conrad says, I meant that I've been in Erudite streams so much that Vash not being a mod, it felt weird. Yeah, I mean, I love Vash. I don't know anything about them, but I love them already. I was picked by Erudite, and I was surprised. Honestly, girl, you do you. Yeah, I'm just trying to keep it small. But in the future, if we ever need more mods, we could do that as well. I don't know if I look stunningly different than normal for any particular reason, but thank you. Let's see. Conrad, I have super arrogant, but that has nothing to do with being a mod. I mean, humans. I love it. Me too. Okay, so. You rocking black and the hair is laid? Oh, laid. Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. I also got these earrings from in town a long time ago. I barely wear them, but they're so cute. And I was like, oh, I need like a big earring for today. Bam. Big earring. Okay, so. Ooh, I look slick, like I'm gonna rob. Ooh, like I'm gonna rob you. Let's go. I appreciate that, guys. Honestly, we have had a crazy weekend. My brothers came into town to help us basically move. They were living here prior, so they had to come move all their stuff. And so today is the hopefully one of the last few days of really big moving stuff. I have to call a place to come pick up some mattresses and things this week, so that's a little... but like that's going to happen, which is good. Oh, thank you so much, Ren, for the 5 gifted memberships. That's so wonderful. Thank you so much. Yay. Yay, yay, yay. Oh, thank you guys so much. Oh, Mar says your hair with the black sweater looks amazing. Okay, thank you. It's a crop top. It's actually not a crop top. Wait, is this one? No, no, no. This one is my really thick wool turtleneck. Like it's really nice and wintry. Um, it's really nice. I really like it. So I appreciate it. Okay, let me do this. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so basically in about a half an hour, we're gonna talk to Steve. I wanted to give you guys a huge health update as well because I got an official diagnosis, which is really, really exciting. So good news and bad news. The very good news is that the doctors at this point are pretty sure it's not autoimmune. They're going to say no on the autoimmune because as much as we've been testing and though the blood work has come back a little bit in the red, it's not enough for it to be a full diagnosis for autoimmune. So the dermatologist is convinced I'm allergic to sun. So that needs to be further tested, but I can't do it here in America because I'm moving. So I'll figure that out. My primary care doctor was sure it was autoimmune, but now that we've seen the rheumatologist and my ANA and all those things have come back, it looks like the rheumatologist is taking a pretty strong stance that it's not autoimmune, but he did diagnose me with fibromyalgia. So fibro is the bad news because even though it's better than autoimmune, definitely like in terms of struggle, I'm excited that it's not autoimmune. It is officially fibromyalgia, which I guess is just basically like chronic pain. I'm a little confused about the diagnosis, but I also think like it makes sense in a lot of ways. I mean, I have all the symptoms. It's a little bit weird of an illness, but I think it makes sense. As long as I have an understanding of what's wrong, I can tackle it. So I think the good news is that because it's not autoimmune, I can be a little bit more lax with my diet. The bad news is that it's fibromyalgia, which just means like a lot of chronic pain. So it's same thing like foggy brain, shortness of breath. Your bones and nerves just feel like they're shooting off in all the horrible ways. Like it's definitely not something I'm excited about having, but at least I have a name for it. At least I can move forward. So that's, I'm going to say pretty exciting. I'm going to say overall good news. You know what I mean? Oh, 7 with the super chat. Thank you so much. Mar says, oh, dang, fibromyalgia sucks, girl. Like, honestly, fibro is going to be weird, but I think it's going to be better than any doom attitude I had about anything else, if that makes sense. I was finally turning a corner about radically accepting my autoimmune, only to discover that I need to now radically accept fibro. So I just need to, now I'm in the radical acceptance of fibro. Oh, 7 says, I feel the pain. Let's go gluten. Honestly. So I asked the rheumatologist if my diet needs to change because of fibro. And he said, look, there's not really a diet that coincides with fibro. But of course, if you're working on not causing more inflammation, then of course foods will matter, right? So moving forward, I think what's really important is that we are being cautious, we are being considerate, and we are being open to any restrictions that might have to happen because I have fibro. But it is exciting that it's not autoimmune. I think I'm kind of relieved in a big way. I was really terrified over all the things I wouldn't be able to do if I had autoimmune plus everything else I have. But I think the rheumatologist basically spoke to me in a way that I understood, where he said that attitude is really big with fibro. So if you really pay attention to your body and your attitude, then it is something I can be okay with. I've been counting my steps, like keeping track of my steps on my phone. My nutritionist has been wanting me to do that. I have 2 more meetings with my nutritionist, and then we're done with that part of my healing process. So I've been paying attention to my steps, and you know how like the average person gets like 6,000 steps a day? I have been doing less than 1,500 on a like a day where I do very limited moving. I'm doing like 800, 600, 300. Like I'm not moving because I was so terrified about how much it rocks my body that it was freaking me out. So the rheumatologist told me that basically he recommends 5 minutes of like focused exercise, like acrobatic or aerobic or something like movement. I don't know what the word is, like maybe even walking or something light, 5 minutes a day until I'm not rocked by that, until it's not destroying my body, just to work out 5 minutes a day. Then I get to move up to 30 minutes a day. And then I could even maybe do lightweight training. So there's some excitement to look forward to. But right now the focus is on moving, focusing on travel, focusing on, not travel, but travel to move, and then focusing on just maintaining a healthy state of mind, I think, through the process. So the pain is kind of annoying, but I think I can have a good relationship with it. I've been doing this thing where I transformed my pain into like a little person so I could have a relationship with that person myself. Like I really believe in categorizing even the selves inside of you. So my pain self is having a different relationship with myself. Like right now I can feel like all the burning through my wrists and my hands. And I keep thinking, well, maybe if I just like put my hands on my lap, it won't hurt as much. But then how will you guys know what I mean? How will I talk like myself? So I think it's just a new relationship with the self, which I know a lot of you guys who have chronic pain, you have been writing me beautiful messages, giving me like lots of reassurance that this isn't the end of my life. So I really appreciate that. I definitely don't want this to be the end of anything that I had planned to do. I want it to just be a thing that I also have to tackle. I'm pretty good with obstacles. You know, suffering is my kink. So you know what? This will just be a new form of suffering, you know? So I'm trying to have a good attitude about it. But I think overall it's pretty good news. It's just like my parents were so wonderful through this last process especially, but my dad called me. He's like, "Oh, Betsy, I'm so sorry you have fibromyalgia, and like I love you and I hate that you're in pain in your 30s. Like you're so young to be in pain." It's like my parents can accept as they get older there will be pain, but they really do feel awful when young people feel a lot of pain. But of course, naturally, pain is a part of life. Pain was a part of my relationship with them growing up, and now it's healing, and pain is a relationship I have with my body right now, and that will also heal to an extent. So there's ultimately, I think there's good things to be had from this. Discord, I'm reading your chat. I see you. Discord says, anti-inflammatory diet. Let's go. Let's go. Like if that's it, fine. But I'm not going to lie, I'm really excited at the idea of adding things back into my diet slowly. Maybe some gluten, maybe some rice. But I don't know. Because remember the last time I had rice was like barely a year ago. And I got really bloated and my body was crazy. So I'm not sure, you know, in the long run. I will say, Discord, I see your message, like allergic to the sun, sad cat face. I am very frustrated that I could be allergic to the heat, or that the dermatologist, he wants to do a biopsy on my face when I'm in the sun. But again, I'm moving, so I have to find a new doctor. And so I have to figure out how to make that a thing. But if I am also allergic to the sun as well as being fibro, it's like, okay, that's fine. I have modest bathing suits. I can wear a lot of sunscreen. There's ways around it. Honestly, as long as my organs are intact, I think I'm going to see this as a win. You know what I mean? Vash says, I learned a long time ago that rest is the worst thing for you. Beings are biological systems made to move. Your body lives as it responds. Yes, but remember that I am a chronic workaholic, and resting is not something I know how to do. So for somebody like me, resting is probably the best thing to do because I don't really know how to do it. Like I don't know how to relax and I know how to be lazy, but being lazy is not resting. Do you get what I'm saying? I'm good at not, you know, so I'm really working on how to learn how to rest right now. That is something that I'm learning. We'll see what happens. Mar says, yeah, unfortunately, a lot of people minimize the pain you're feeling when it's chronic, but the pain is valid. Sometimes it feels like a roller coaster. That is what's been the hardest, if I'm being honest. Like the roller coaster has been the hardest part of the process because some days I'm like, oh, I'm not feeling too bad. And then it's like, you know what I mean? Joy says, woo, just came in. What did I miss? You missed my official diagnosis, girl. It's fibro. It's fibromyalgia. So for the next week, we got rid of my mattress. I'm sleeping on the floor. And already I slept on the floor and I woke up and I was like, oh, whoa. Okay. I am not the 22-year-old I used to be. But yeah, it's not too bad. I think I've figured out a pattern as well. It seems like in the very early morning, my body is rusty, like it needs to be oiled. Then towards the afternoon, it gets a little bit better. But then by like 3, 4 o'clock, my body's just like, vroom. You know what I mean? Vroom. It's just like a crash almost. Like even today, there's a lot of intrusive thoughts with pain. I have a lot of thoughts that are like, don't go to work, don't do anything, cancel on everybody, hide in a cave. Like I have a lot of internal thoughts that are like, don't do this, just do nothing. But if I just do nothing, I'm also going to mentally hate myself. So what's really important is that I have goals and I meet them for the day and I don't kill myself trying to meet goals that are unrealistic. I think that's kind of the focus I'm going to go on, is that I want to make sure that I'm always attaining my goals, but I'm trying to work on not over doing it, if that makes sense. Like I don't know who I talked to about this a while ago, but it's like a daily thing where I have my main goals for the day and then my ideal goals. So my main goals today are do this live show, hang out with Steve, and have a great time. Those are like the two, like those are the things I have to do today, mandatory. Then past that, ideally, I would like to pack some more and I would like to edit my podcast for Wednesday because it's already pre-recorded. So that is the ideal goals. Now, worst case, I could always edit tomorrow, and worst case, I could also pack tomorrow. But I think if I feel my body correctly and I'm having a good relationship with it, I think that I think I should be able to at least pack today. I have a feeling I won't have the spoons to edit, but I think I'll have time to pack, if that makes sense. JR says, have you always dealt with chronic stress? Can you define that for me? Right? I come from a really interesting life, so stress was just a part of it a lot. So I'm not sure what chronic stress means outside of just a normally lived hard life. I mean, obviously my whole life has been sort of stressful. There are moments that are less stressful, but I'm a YouTuber. Even being a YouTuber alone is just stressful. You know, you're waking up every day to people telling you you're a bad person and that you should just end your life. And you're waking up every day to people saying like, I can't believe Brittany did this. And you're waking up every day to people just like parasocially abusing you as a person. And at the same time, that is the job. And so like, it's no big deal, but it is like a weird, like there's always underlining stress when you're a YouTuber. So I'm not sure what that means. Like, I kind of assume nurses are always stressed, right? Because that sounds like a stressful job. So don't a lot of people just live with chronic stress every day? Like, what does that mean, chronic stress? Jewel says, what's the good and bad news? Good news, it's not autoimmune. Bad news, it's fibromyalgia. So, yes, good news, bad news. Yeah. Conrad says, LOL, quote, my whole life has been stressful, so is that chronic stress? Read your words back again and you'll have your answers. Is that what chronic stress is? I don't know. People throw like these words at me all the time and I never know what it means. JR, like, let me know if that's what you mean. Have you always dealt with chronic stress? Yeah, I mean, my life is stressful. You know, like I wasn't born into an affluent family. Like I wasn't born into, a family without problems, and so I felt like stress was always a part of it. And as an older sibling, you feel a lot of that stress. You know what I mean? How do you handle it? Violet said. Well, not always well. I cry a lot, if I'm being honest. Crying is like my favorite stress reliever. So I guess I do a lot of crying, and I also do a lot of I think weed helps, though I'm not going to a weed-friendly country so I probably will have to learn how to cope a little bit better outside of weed. But I think that it's changed over the years. I try to adapt really well. I think one of the skills my family has is that we're pretty good at adapting. How do I deal with chronic stress? The best way I can in the moment. I think realistically, right? Because realistically, I don't know how I'm going to feel that day. How many spoons do I have to do that? Sometimes I just cry. Sometimes I vent. Sometimes I take a walk. Sometimes I just do nothing. I think sometimes I push it down like it doesn't exist until I deal with it later, which is not always great, but sometimes you got to do that to get through the moment. So gosh, I think it would just depend on, you know, what's happening in the moment. Yeah. Because if it's a part of your daily life, then it becomes sort of like the flavor of life. You know what I mean? Jules says, is the European country you're moving to weed friendly? Not really. So I'll have to probably travel for that if I'm interested. But also, I'm trying not to make it a priority because look, if I really do want children in a couple, 3-4 years, if I really want kids, then I don't want to have weed in my system anyways. I don't want to smoke when I have babies. I'm not going to do edibles when I have babies. So taking a break from it is not the bad thing, like not the worst thing. Thank you for the spoons, girl. Thank you, Snow. Thank you, Violet. Thank you. TMM's here. Hi, TMM. How are you? There's an inherent danger to being a YouTuber, which is why I cringe a little when I hear kids say they want to become YouTubers. Yeah, same. I think one of the things that see right now I'm having I don't know that I have it and I don't want to even get diagnosed, but my mom and my brother have sciatica And honestly, like I have the same sciatic nerve issues that I think they do. So I haven't gotten to see, that's what I mean. My family genetically we might be pretty, but I think I don't know if our genetics are really that great. So I'm also on a stool. So I am experiencing like a lot of stressful pain, which is annoying. But again, you just kind of like pretend it's not there, I guess. But yeah, I do worry about the idea of my kids wanting to be YouTubers. I think if I do have children, I'm definitely going to take the practice that H3H3 does, which is like maybe show them off as a baby, but once they're recognizable, like those kids don't need to make that choice just yet. I want my job to be like a normal job to my kids. So if we have kids and I reference like mom's going to work today, I don't think they'll really see it as a big a deal. I'm not a flashy YouTuber. I'm not a millionaire YouTuber. I'm not a Bugatti YouTuber. So I don't think I'm not a family vlogger. So I'm hoping that my job feels very normal to my kids and it doesn't feel like their mom is a content creator or something like that. Ashton says I was listening to one of the experts on trauma here on YouTube, Irene Leon. She was talking about how people with chronic pain and body issues have stored trauma that presents as health issues. Yeah, I've heard some people say that, like what's his name? Chopra, what's his name? I haven't watched it yet, but I saw him talk very briefly about the idea that like stress is a lot of our pain. I mean, possibly, right? And that's the thing is like at the end of the day, unless I had $1 billion, I don't know how people live without stress, but even if you had $1 billion, your life can still be stressful. So, I mean, I don't know if I believe in this idea that stress alone is the issue I'm having. But if it is, then girl, fuck it. Like life is stressful. So I'm going to be stressful, it looks like. The idea of not living my life, you know what I mean? It's hard. You know what I mean? Gonza says poor kids when they find out their mom has an OnlyFans. Well, that's the thing is like we're going to raise our kids sex positive. They're not going to care that people are naked. They're going to have appropriate times in which they understand like nudist communities versus sex positive communities versus strippers versus sex workers versus I'm so excited to possibly raise children that are going to judge people less. I'm very excited at that idea. Yeah, Deepak Chopra. Yeah, I think he was on a podcast. I have to like check it out, but I haven't looked into it yet. Have you read any Ram Dass? No. I don't think I know that name. I don't even know what that is. Ramdas. I do not know what that is. Also, just the two of us. We could make it if we tried. Just the two of us. Oh. Level 5 is stress-free, question mark? Absolutely not 7. No. Hello, everybody. Okay, so we've got about 15 or so minutes to chat about anything that's on your mind. And then we're going to talk to Steve, which is very exciting. I'm stoked to get into this. I have my water. I have a tissue. I have lipstick to reapply my face so I don't disappear in the middle of stream. I can't wait to make a new background because this background is just like, look at my skin. Hold on. It matches my skin. It's just such a bad background. What was I thinking? I just wanted to be neutral and natural and like muted. And it ended up just like matching my fucking skin tone. Forcekin says, do you remember blowing bubbles as a kid? Well, he's out of prison and said hi. You got me. Very good, very good, very good. Vash says, I mean, stress and stress response is the issue. If your cortisol is redlining consistently, it's an issue. For me, I've had the supplement with oh, I don't know how to say this word. Oh my God, what are these words? Why do you even have these words in your vocabulary? Are they just like, oh, okay. I can't even read that comment all the way because like I can't even say those words, but I appreciate that input. That's what's helped you. Nicholas says, hey, Brittany, what do you think of this quote, a sound body lives in a sound mind within a sound soul? I think it sounds romantic. Does that mean calm? Like or does that mean sound of mind, meaning within reason? Is it representing sanity? Okay, I need to move my mouse as well because this chair is a little tall for it. So let's move that so I can talk to you guys better. We can make it if we try, just the two of us. Oh my God, did I break my mouse? No. Okay. Through the window to the wall as the sweat drips down my balls, drops down, drips down my balls. I want to spend some time with you. Sounds says I would like to suggest the School of Life here on YouTube. Have you heard of them? Yeah, I mean, I've watched the School of Life for like, 10 years now. They've been on YouTube. I like them. I've used them in some of my videos. I don't watch them consistently. I think that their work wouldn't help somebody with where I'm at right now. I mean, my siblings and I have watched like lots of their videos and we've talked about them, but I think we all kind of outgrew that channel, if I'm being real with you. I think that channel does a really good job at talking about like tackling the stuff that you're ready to tackle. But when you've already been tackling it for 10 years, you're looking for a different avenue at this point, right? But I think in the beginning, it was really helpful to learn about family structures and how the mind works and why we find ourselves in situations. But yeah, though moving forward, I don't think his work quite speaks to me at this point. But yeah, he's a great channel. Yeah, I have to do something, which I never really do, but I've been getting, like, part of the reason that I am stressed is that there is like this reality of being a content creator, which means you don't escape the toxicity of the internet at any point. And so you just have to have like boundaries with it. And I think a big part of having boundaries with the internet is acknowledging that not everyone is coming to you in good faith. And a lot of people are coming just to ruin your day. So I'm going to be quite strict with sort of kinds of people that are going to show up on my channel, especially since some people will not leave me alone. So you run into problems, right, where people forget what I'm doing here. And I just want to say this for new people if you're new, but like my podcast is not a debate podcast, right? I am not here to debate my guests. I am here to ask them how they're feeling about life, and I want to know more about their way of living. I don't want to push back on my guests because I, Brittany, my personal values disagree with most of the world, at least in practice. Even though everyone talks a big game, hardly anyone is willing to walk the walk because it's very hard. So when people see me talk to people, they need to understand that if I was here to change people's minds, I would have been a different kind of content creator like I was in the past. I'm not here to change your mind. I don't want to. I'm here to see if you have tools that you can share with my audience so we can be better in our lives, not so we can convert to your way of thinking. I want the tool. I don't want your conversion. I want your tool. I do not want conversion. I'm not looking to join a bubble. I'm not looking to join your cult. I'm not looking to join your religion. I just want the tool. Like we went over the 10 commandments in last live show because like what a great way to turn something religious into secular. But I'm not going to convert. It's like when people are like, Brittany, you've been, you're kind of, you like Christianity a little bit or Catholicism. Do you ever think you'll convert again? It's like, no. But to say that there isn't tools in in Catholicism or in Christianity, I think would be the wrong way to look at life. The right way to look at life, in my opinion, totally subjective, does not matter, is I think you should look at people as opportunities for tools and opportunities to share tools with them. So basically sharing wisdom. We're making a symbiotic relationship where we're sharing wisdom, right? What's good for you might not be good for everyone. What's good for me is not good for you necessarily. So I think that's really the focus, right? Mariah says, I'd really like to book a call, but I'm nervous. Can anyone else share their experience from their calls? Or Brittany, do you have any feedback to share? I mean, the calls are about you. So the greatest thing about them is that you don't have to worry about me. You just have to worry about you. So don't book a call if you have nothing to talk about. Some people do that, but you're just spending $250 an hour to not talk. So think about what you want to talk about and how you want to use that time. If you want to call me up just to shoot the shit, I'm down for that too. But it's really about you. Like these call times are about you. And so I'm just here to facilitate a tool. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it's really chill. It's really relaxed. I'm currently booked up basically until June. So if anyone wants to book a call with me, I'm only doing my already established callers in May, basically. So the best way to like get in touch with me, or at least to hang out with me right now, I'd say, is the Discord. And if you want to do a one-on-one call, but you're not sure, I would join the Discord actually, because then you'll see me, you'll hear me. A lot of my callers are on the Discord and they can talk to you there about it. But I mean, it is a nice way to see the environment because you know what I mean? My calls are pretty, like, they're a safe space and everything for the person. So again, I mold to you. So if you come to me with your call and you're like, hey, this is like a space for me and this is how I would like to be in this space, then I adapt to you, unless for some reason you're really like overstepping my boundaries. But in general, it's a very chill space. Oh. Okay. Sound says, yes, personal sense of in real life and content interactions can be tough as a normal, as opposed to those of us who have built a bubble for the purpose of creation. What's the go-to for you right now? I'm not sure. Personal sense of, I'm not sure I understand the full question. I'm so sorry. I think the way it's written could mean many things to my brain, so I'm not sure exactly what you mean, but I did see your comment. Maddox says, I love your podcast exactly because of that, to make sure you keep your peace of mind and health at the forefront. Yeah, of course. And like, I know there's this idea that people think I'm going to push back on my guests or I'm going to debate them or decimate them. Like, if you want to do that, go to Debate YouTube, bros. Like, I don't know about you, but I watch a lot of podcasts and the host of the podcast does not attack the guest. So again, I don't know why people think even though I've done my podcast with guests so many times, why would I all of a sudden change and push back on my guest? I just want to know. Also, people are always like, they confuse, I think, talking with someone and getting along is like promoting their lifestyle. I get along with most people. So here's the thing. Brittany, I get along with most people. Most people like me from all bubbles. That's why I bubble hop. That's why I have YouTubers on every side of YouTube. Most people do like me at first, but usually they stop being friends with me because of their values. But usually that's because they don't have friends that are diverse. Like, I have friends that do disagree with me on reality. Most of the people in my life do not even agree about what we're doing on the planet. So the idea that I would be a person who would push back on people when I think most of the world is living a life that confuses me seems odd. I'm really not trying to project that my way is the right way. And I think everyone else is. So when I don't do it, they think I'm like sucking dick or I'm like pandering. But I'm just not here to make war. I'm here to make love. So I don't understand. I get it, but I don't know. I'm excited. The next year of content is definitely going to be about the other side of YouTube, like the many other spheres of podcasters who are just having a discussion. It's not about winning. It is about knowing. And so I'm excited to go through those content creators with you. Have I ever read anything from Peter Levine? I don't think so. Why does he sound familiar? Let me look at, okay. Peter Levine. That does kind of sound familiar. Oh, I know Peter's YouTube videos, right? Doesn't he do trauma videos on YouTube? Am I crazy? Hold on, let me look at his face. Yeah, isn't this the guy who does trauma videos on YouTube? I think somebody recently suggested him to me. I haven't had a chance to really go through his content, but yeah, I think somebody recently introduced his content to me. All right, let me hit Steve up and say, hey, boo-boo. Hey, boo. Let me know when you are ready. Sorry, this is probably really loud in your ears. My bad. I'm so sorry. Let me know when you're ready, okay? Let me know when you're ready. Just the two of us. You can make it if you try. Oh, my heart is on fire. My heart is on fire. Okay, hold on. I'm just going to move this up because I'm going to need to put this window up eventually, and then I'm going to have to disappear for a second to set Steve and I up. Oh. Hold on. You can make it if you try. Just the. Oh my god. Okay. Oh my god. I'm an old lady. Oh my god. Okay. No. This chair is not helping. Okay. I'm okay. Ooh. Okay. Okay. Luna says, Brittany, have you seen the Jubilee video where guys are comparing their dick sizes? Yeah, I think Abba and Preach covered that, didn't they? Wasn't that Abba and Preach who covered that? I thought it was pretty crazy. Leo says, doesn't the clash of values in reality become too exhausting to you, though? May depend on what you're talking about, I guess. I mean, I just go to my bubble and I'm good again. Like, radical acceptance for me, going through the journeys of the levels, being introspective, considering extrospection, being self-aware meant that I was aware that my ideas were not for the world. They were for me. And then the world and I will have conversations about how we can coexist together. But we're always having those conversations. Everyone says, you know, oh, I don't want to hurt children. But then we live lives that hurt our children. Because what we really mean to say is, based off of what I mean when I say hurt, I don't want to do that thing. Which is why, again, we need to have relationships with language. We need to talk about what we mean by that. We need to have an openness to the idea that we're not describing those things in the same way. When I say I don't want to hurt my child, that means I want to reaffirm them if they're trans or gay. When my parents say they don't want to hurt their child, that means they don't want to reaffirm that they're trans or gay. Do you get what I'm saying? So we all have different relationships, and I don't think it's objective which way to go, in what direction to go into. I think it just depends on the bubble and the relationship everyone wants to have in it. This idea of like universal peace, universal language, universal anything is just the mistake I think everyone is making, because there is that narrative. The reason people feel good sending me messages saying like, you're a very bad person, or I think Brittany's a bad person, is because they're trying to say, I'm just confirming Brittany's bad, right? I'm Brittany's bad, right? They're trying to seek that validation. But for me, I can't see most people as bad, because if I was really to put that judgment on it, I think I'd want to eradicate 99% of anyone who, I don't know, like I wouldn't want to, that's the problem, is like my ideal world just gets, it's like a live and let live. My ideal world is like everyone get along, figure it out, get along. But my ideal world will never be a reality. So if everyone can't get along, I can't even get my YouTube people to get along. I can't get my own family to get along with everybody. So it just doesn't make sense for me to pretend that my ideal will happen. So what do you do instead? You radically accept that everyone will not get along, and instead you do your best to make peace anyways. You do your best to make peace anyways. And by the way, the reason I don't go as hard on Sneako as other people is because Sneako never takes what I say about him personal. Everybody else makes it personal and becomes a baby about it. Sneako's the only one who doesn't take what I say personally. For me, at least. If he started taking my shit personal, then we would probably have a conversation about that. But he doesn't. So until Sneako starts taking my opinion of him or anything I say about my work personal, like Brittany's attacking me, then we can have a conversation and maybe I'll go at him. Okay, I'll be right back. Let me get All right, everybody. Hello, everyone. As you can see, I have Steve with me today, and we're going to have a great conversation, I'm sure. But can you guys let me know how our volume is? I think it should be about perfect. But Steve, can you
Check it,
introduce
check.
yourself
Yeah,
and tell them what
absolutely.
you're about so we can get that going?
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. I'm Sleeve T Rocks. I'm one of the hosts of Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll, a podcast about everything in the name. Brittany was on the podcast. We had a great time hanging out with her. I'm also kind of known on the internet as Madame Genevieve's boyfriend, so I have a reputation for that. And I'm also a traveling musician. I travel with a rock band across the country, so that's why Sleeve T Rocks is the name. So, anyways, really happy to be talking to Brittany today because
Yay.
I hope that today will act as like almost like a commercial for like your conversational skills going forward. You know what I mean? Like everybody can just be like,
Oh,
"Wow, Brittany's
gosh.
so good at this!" Like that conversation with Sleeve T Rocks was just awesome. Going straight to the Patreon, getting in the community. That's hopefully what the outcome will
Well,
be here.
fingers crossed. I'm really not trying to like put myself on a pedestal here. So, you know what it takes for me to have a good conversation is a good guest. So, I'm excited to talk to you today. Now, I know that you put out a tweet explaining some of the subjects we're going to cover today, like the levels and sex positivity. And I'm so sorry. I have this worst chatter in my chat right now. Thank you, mods, for getting him out of here. He's throwing slurs around. Thank you,
Uh,
guys. That's not okay in the chat. Don't do that. So, did you want to start on a particular subject? What's comfortable for you?
Sure. Yeah, actually, I kind of outlined a few things that I wanted to talk about because I was really
Perfect.
excited to talk to you. So this was a big deal for me.
Great.
I guess first and foremost, I wanted to talk about how Jen and I had both originally heard about your content, and maybe we can kind
Please.
of set up the basis for everything from there. I'm not gonna lie, the first time that we had ever seen any of your content whatsoever was your interview with Max Carson, aka
Oh,
Mr.
good
Girl.
times.
Yeah, great times, great times. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie, a lot of these conversations he does really make me laugh. I think that
Yeah.
just like the mega, what is it, the meta conversation about everything that just drives people insane. Like I think one of my favorite conversations with him was the Wicked Supreme one, because he was
Oh, yeah.
twisting himself into pretzels trying to engage with Max, and I thought it was really funny. But when I watched him with you, just felt like he was not getting you at all.
Mm.
I really
Yeah.
felt like what you were talking about and how he was describing the things you believed in and kind of your brand, I guess, it just didn't resonate. I felt like he just wasn't listening to you. I felt like he wasn't getting like what you were about. And
Yeah.
so it made me curious, like, what is Brittany actually about, right?
Mm.
What are the beliefs that kind of guide her principles? What are the things that make her want to create content? So, they were talking about the levels, right? We were like, we're gonna start right there. Jen and I smoked a fat bowl together, got mega high, and we threw on the levels. That video inspired one of the longest and deepest conversations of our entire relationship.
Yay.
And we just connected with like so many like fine points of it. And we literally talked for about like 3 hours about like all the specifics, like level three.
Yes.
We were talking about like how I had an experience with a level three and how it just like made so much sense about that bridge that you have to cross,
Amazing.
how I'm stuck in level four and I'm constantly fighting against the immovable forces of life, and that there's just like things I can't accept that I probably should
Yeah.
accept if I ever want to evolve. And how
Yeah.
Jen was a level five and how she was able to
Mm.
accept life, the immovable forces, accept death. Like all these things made like so much sense to us. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, and so I just wanted to start right there. Like the levels is kind of how we discovered you because of that conversation. We felt like he was wrong about you and we wanted to discover the truth. So what do you think
You
about that so far?
Well, I'll tell you this. First of all, the idea of my content being a conversation starter is the best compliment I could ever get, more than anything else, because I know that for me, other content creators are the thing that I send to my partner, I send to my sister. I'm like, watch this video, talk to me about it. Like, it's a great conversation starter. And so the idea
Yes.
that my content could be that for people just makes me so excited
And
because
the
that's what I'm trying to do. Go ahead, please tell me.
Oh, I was gonna say the thing that you usually reference your content as is kind of like a tool, I guess.
Yes.
It's not like a doctrine, it's not a
Right.
dogma, you're not a
Right.
guru.
Oh God,
It's
no.
just Yeah, if it helps you like kind of talk about issues that you're dealing with, then you think your content is for you. Now, for
Yes.
us, you talk about bubbles. I think that we really are like of a similar ilk to the way that you think,
Mm,
because it ended up being a very useful tool. And it could just be because of the experiences that I've had.
yeah.
But let me just talk about level 3 for a second, if you don't
Please.
mind.
Please. Yeah.
Yeah, so my mom, right? She used to be a writer. She
Mm,
was very creative, had like a lot of books under her belt. She was an English teacher. And she really had like a lot ahead of her as far as her creative goals and her creative career.
hmm.
However, one day she decided that she didn't want to go down that path anymore.
Yeah.
And when she described why she didn't want to go down that path, I actually found a quote from her on the internet, which basically, it was like her most famous quote, by the way. It basically said that the best thing you can do in life is embrace the mediocrity, embrace like,
Mm,
the stillness, the calmness, and not like go into the crazy. Now,
yeah.
when I heard your levels system, like to me, I immediately heard like this is level 3. That's where she was at. She saw like what was beyond like, kind of the level 2 mundane
Yeah.
existence that most people exist in. And she was like, she sees the darkness, she sees like the dark reality of life, but she's like, that's
Hmm.
scary. And if I was to continue my creative path, I would have to dive further into that. And
Yeah.
that's terrifying. I don't want to
Yes.
do that. So she like basically took the blue pill and went back to like level 2. She works in corporate
Yeah.
America now. She's a very nice person, she's got like her ducks in a row. But to me, that was clearly like a decision she made where she could either embrace like the uncertainty of life and like thus the highlights of her creativity. But she said no to that. She decided
Yeah.
it was much safer to go backwards and go into a much more cozy existence. And to me,
Yeah.
that's exactly what level 3 is in relation to like going to level 2 or going to level 4. I just wanted to
Hmm.
hear your thoughts about that. If that's like kind of what you had in mind when you were
Yeah. Yeah.
constructing
Just
this.
you know what's hard about the levels is that I think that twos go through a levels of their own in the two bubbles.
Hmm.
And then I think there's like an existential sort of journey that happens between you and the universe that is to five. But I think like I have a brother who's similar where he was like, okay, I love the levels, I love all this stuff, but hear me out. And I was like, tell me. He's like, why should I go from a 3 to a 4? Because won't that mean I will lose my connection to all of these things? And I said, yeah, probably. They'll probably become more meaningless in a weird way. And he's like, no, 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 I'm good. And like literally, he chilled. He was like, nah, I'm good. He is our, like, we all love him as like our favorite, like, not in, that's why I think being a 2 isn't bad or good. It's just what brings you the most joy. And for him, he needs to have this connection to the bubbles, to media, to celebrities. He wants to have this connection to the world that he doesn't want to lose. And he's like, to be honest, he's very happy. So why should I argue with that, right? Like I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, you always say that. It's like it's not that you're a bad person, and I
Of
truly
course
like,
not.
as a matter of fact, somebody like tried to like come and say like, you know what Brittany believes, when I was talking to them about how I was having this conversation with you. They were
Mm.
like, Brittany believes in a hierarchy of people, right? Like the ones are just worthless, just like put them in a ditch and forget about them, like kind of thing. But
Yeah.
I don't hear that at all. Like
No, no.
not everybody values introspection in the same like way that like people like you and me do. We're
Yeah.
like very philosophically inclined, I'd say. We like
Mm.
really value like trying to understand why we do what we do, but not only that, try
Yes.
to understand maybe like the modus operandi of people around us and kind of like what animates us. And level
Yes.
2 is not a bad thing. It's just kind of like
Mhm.
the wavelength at which I think most people operate at. They just
Yeah.
kind of have like a thing that makes sense. It kind of gives them security. They don't have to really think about a lot of it kind of helps them a little bit more in their pursuit of the denial of death. They're able to,
Mm.
embed themselves in things that are just like kind of, they give them a base level of purpose. But going to like level 4, which is where I believe I'm at,
Mhm.
this is where life kind of gets scary because you really understand that like there are things that you cannot move. I used to be an
Mm.
addict. I used to be
Yeah,
a drug
really?
addict.
I
Yeah,
didn't know that.
that's actually where I got started with Not So Erudite. I started my streaming journey a year ago talking to her about addiction.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, I heard she was an addiction counselor. I thought we'd have an interesting conversation about it.
Yeah.
And one of the ideas, obviously, of recovery is the idea that you have to accept the things that you cannot change. That idea is one that, like, really I struggle with because, like,
Yeah.
I see forces and I want to move them. I want to,
Yeah.
like, change life. I want it to make, I get stuck at a red light. I'm like, God, why is this taking so long? You know, like I'm like thinking like time is moving too slowly. I need my goals to happen more quickly. You know, I can't
Yeah.
stop like the dark forces that are coming at me, but I feel like I need to like take control of all this. So for me, a level 4, life is infuriating sometimes.
Mm.
You
Mm.
know, and seeing people who don't see it the same way with the same kind of urgency, like I need to change that which I cannot change. Like I used to think those people were crazy. I was like, what's
Yeah.
wrong with you? Why can't you fight against this? Why can't you try and like, you know, evolve and like make the issues in life better? And I think it was like meeting Jen that I really understood like my problem of like always trying to fight against things that oftentimes you have no control over. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Same with borderline recovery, where it's a matter of you have to remember the things you can't control. And I think outside of that, if you're just talking about being a human, how many times do we see things happen around us and we're like, whoa, like, wait. And then you can't even, you feel powerless. So I went through that existential dread of like, so in the twos, I feel like a lot of twos have really profound relationships with existence and existing within the framework of the bubble, within the
Yeah.
framework of their own understanding. So really, we're all having the same relationship with whatever limited tools we have. What's scary is when you start to pop those bubbles and you get more tools and you realize, like, okay, I thought I got it. Like at 3, I thought I got it. Then when I hit 4, I was like, oh, there it goes again. Like, because I lost it again. I lost like the sense of understanding that I thought I had. And I
Yeah.
think that going through that journey over and over until you basically almost always stop doing it. Like at this point, I could be wrong, but I'm almost positive that if like aliens came down and were like, yo, what's up? I'd be like, okay, cool. Noted. Aliens. Like, even if God
Yes.
existed, I'd be like, noted, God. Because at this point, I'm just open to whatever is true. Whatever is true, I'm like, cool, I would like to know that. Awesome. Versus assuming that, oh, if this is true, then this must be true. I'm like, no, this is true. Cool. Pause. What does this mean? I never could do that before. I always thought, well, if this is true, then this is true, and this is true, and this is true. But that's not what it is. You know, I'm sure you've heard this from the religious folk, God bless them, where they'll say, like, the universe is always expanding, and that's proof of God. And I'm like, stop. The universe is always expanding. Stop. Now, what does that mean? Instead of thinking, the universe is always expanding, must be God. It's like, stop. Why do
Yes.
we do that? And it's just human nature. Like human brains fill in the gaps, whether we
Mhm.
like it or not. And so you always have to be cautious about what we're filling it in with.
Yeah, and the number one thing I hear from that is like your willingness to embrace this all. You see, this is why I knew that you
Mm.
and Jen were like gonna be like friends right away.
I like her so much. Yeah.
I know that makes me so happy because you guys are so much on the same wavelength. And it's your willingness to embrace things. You know,
Yeah.
Jen has like this calm energy to her an awful
Yeah, she
lot.
does.
Yeah, and that's what I love about her. I feel like that kind of energy like really frazzles some of the people she's like debated with. I'm not going to
Mm.
talk about like, you know, common
Yeah.
foes in the space like Lav
Sure.
Lune, but that I think that's why like people like Lav ended up going insane with people like Jen is
Mm.
because Jen is so calm and she's not like wanting to fight everybody. She's not like trying to
Yeah.
constantly correct the
It's really bad
records.
for your skin to debate people online. I don't
Yes.
recommend it.
No, no, definitely not. You know, my complexion used to be a little bit better than this, but then
I'm
I
telling
entered
you, the
Twitch full. God
stress,
damn it.
the stress. Well, I
Yeah.
think it's like if you look at politicians and you look at the way they age, they don't
Oh
age
my
well.
God. Right?
So maybe we should take note in our smaller.
It's
And you know
all
what's
those
crazy?
lies. It's all those lies, like, weighing them down,
That's
you
what it
know?
is. All those creases. I think people forget that because we're in this space, they think that this is gonna sound so wrong, but like think that everything we're doing is like ride or die, like or very important, or like the end of the world, or very like. And I'm just sitting here like, we're making content, we're doing our best, but we really aren't moving and shaking the world. We're only impacting our bubbles. So
Yes.
we need to pay attention to like, what game are we playing, right? Are we playing the good big sister game? Are we playing the father who never comes home after he gets the milk game? Are we playing what game are we playing? So I know for me, I'm playing I want to give you tools and I want you to give me tools game. Tell me what
Yeah.
you know so I can take your wisdom and use it in my life and I'll give you mine. That's what I want to trade. I want to trade wisdom with people.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You're a free merchant of the wisdom game. I like that.
Yes. Yeah, I
And
think so.
and that I feel the same way. Like if I'm not like talking to somebody who I feel like I've got like a fairly like transactional like wisdom thing going on where I don't feel like I'm
Mm.
learning from them or I'm like kind of picking something down, then it's something I'm not truly interested in. I don't pursue very many conversations in this space, to be perfectly honest. I think that
Mhm.
you're like one of the few conversations I wanted to pursue besides Kyla
Thank you.
because I thought that it was just something that really resonated with me. It was something I was excited to talk about. I couldn't wait to
Yeah.
jump in the space, share some ideas, you know. We have a banter ball. I'll throw it to you. You throw it back. Hopefully, we get some new ideas on it afterwards. You know.
Yeah. I
Um,
love that.
Yeah, and so I'm sorry, I was talking about Jen being level 5. I just really want to take this home because she deserves the credit. She deserves the credit. She's taken the journey,
For
right?
doing the work. Yeah, the work is
Yeah.
a lot. It's a lot. It's hard, and I want to reiterate that the levels is a
Mhm.
relationship with the self so you can have a better relationship with existence. So your
Yes.
existing is you are using the levels to have a better relationship with yourself, to have a better relationship with other people and yourself, but it's not meant to judge people. It's not meant to categorize people into this unlovable categorization. Like I have a level 1 in my inner circle that I love so much. I think he's a
Yes.
wonderful he's complicated.
Took a
He's
little bit to get there.
he's a little complicated. I can't say that his consciousness makes the best decisions, but that's his journey. And
Yes.
I would protect him against the world. Like I would choose him over the world because he's
Mhm.
mine.
Yeah.
Right? So
I love how you also say like he's yours because like you don't write him off because he was a level 1. It sounds like,
no.
you see him on a journey. Hopefully this
Yes.
journey will take him to a place where he can evolve at least beyond that. And I don't
Yes.
think that you've ever said that like anybody's beyond hope or anything like that.
No, not
It's
at all. No, wait, wait,
really
wait, wait. I will correct. The first levels video I made, I did think at the time that maybe if you're a 1, you can't get out of it. But then I took that video down and the new one is coming for our 100th episode of the podcast.
Oh shoot.
I'm very excited. But
Oh
I
shoot.
actually met a 1 who had become what I call a 4. And I think they're on their very close way to 5. So in my head, I was like, oh shit, okay, cool. So now
Dang.
I know. That's why I don't write the levels down because it's living. I'm still doing it. I'm still figuring it out. So I'm really excited about that idea that yes, there are people who are who are not beyond hope, who can overcome. So I do think 1s can be 5s because I'm
Yeah.
watching someone go through that journey right now and I'm like, oh shit. So now I have all this hope for my 1 where I'm like, let's go. Let's
Yes.
go. Like just
And
become a 2. Just become a 2.
just be a 2, bro. That sounds like such a meme, but it's true.
Please.
We actually came up with our own piece of levels lore, if you will.
Oh.
So we came up with this idea, and this is just fan fiction. Basically, we're not like making this like officially canonized. This isn't like a hadith for the the levels or
Okay,
anything.
perfect.
Yeah, this is just an idea Jen and I were talking about, which is the idea of like transitioning from level 4 to 5, which is kind of the journey I'm on, I guess,
Yeah.
trying to accept the immovable forces, the darkness of life instead of just trying to fight them all the time.
Yeah.
We came up with an idea called the bridge. The bridge is
Okay.
essentially like remember have you ever seen Indiana Jones and the Last
Yes.
Crusade? Yeah, you
Yes.
remember that bridge he has to cross that is like painted exactly like the chasm that he has to cross?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how we look at going from level 4 to 5.
Ah.
It's nothing you can just be like, okay, well, there's the bridge over there. I'm going to walk
Yes.
over and just cross
Yeah.
it and we're going to be good. You
Yeah.
literally have to like have this leap of faith where you just put your foot out and you just like step out. And instead of like descending into the darkness, you actually are levitating above it because that was kind of the whole point the entire time. It's a journey you have to take through conscious decisions, but it's not like you can just be like, there's the bridge, I'm crossing it. You have to make a decision on how you
Yeah.
see certain forces, and before you know it, you're walking across that Last Crusade invisible bridge. What do you think
Yeah.
about this idea?
I think that could work because I know for myself, I remember the moment I felt like a 4. And at the time, I didn't have the levels language, right? Because I was just going through my life. And it was only after that I went back. And so when we
Mhm.
wrote the levels, my co author and I, we were both 4s. And so we felt like, okay, this is note to self. Like, this is the journey we're on. Here's this. What is this? What is this? Blah, blah, blah. So when I became a 5, I had been working on my brother's farm. I had left the internet for a 6-month hiatus because of my stalker. And I was building fences every morning and just like living my life with my nieces and nephews on this farm. And then one day I woke up and I knew something had changed. And I think it was genuinely me letting go. It was like I
Wow.
took that leap of faith. I said to myself, okay, we know this logically. And now we're like catching up reasonably. And once I like let it set into my whole body, I was like, oh, okay. Okay. And then it felt like really just like profoundly simple, but
Yes.
so hard.
Yes, that piece is exactly what I think is like kind of the end goal. And it's like it has to be a decision to accept that piece. You have to just
Mm,
kind of be like,
yes.
I am going to decide, like, now when I like see these forces at play, I'm not going to be reactional to them. I'm not just going to try
Yes.
and lash
Yes.
out. I'm just going to
Yes.
deep breath, just let it be sometimes, accept what I can't change, try my best to work with what I can, and just
Yeah.
understand at the end of the day that like I'm really not in control of life. Life is in control like to a large degree. I don't have a lasso big enough to throw around this thing. A lot of
Yeah.
times I just have to accept what it is, and that is the greatest piece that you can do. I guess Jen described it. Sometimes she just like looks at the like the cat sitting on the floor, and she'll just be like, "I'm just looking at its fur and its breath rising and falling and its soft purrs." You know, like it sounds kind of hippie, I guess, but it's just
Yeah.
her embracing and appreciating like the moments and like that
Yeah.
and the things that are like just simple and calm. And that's my journey. You know, that's like what
Yeah.
she helped me realize about myself. And you were kind of like the tool set that we needed to like kind of like figure out where we were both at in this journey. And
Good.
it helped us understand each other like a lot better. You know, like I wasn't anymore like, okay, Jen, why aren't you like why aren't you trying to fight everything in life? Why aren't you like, you know, why don't you have that fiery passion like what I have? And like
Yeah.
simultaneously she'd be like, why are you always trying to fight everything? Why can't you just like take a deep breath and calm down? Like we eventually like came to that understanding just due to the tool set of the levels. And I think that
That's
that was
amazing.
really profound. And so thank you, Brittany. We really want to say
Yeah.
that this helped us a lot with our journey.
That's what I want. I think it's been a great conversation piece in my life. Like it's been a great thing that we've all done together, even as a family. Like my siblings and I will go through it and we'll talk about it. And like they're more critical than the internet could ever be. But like they're very, they're into because I grew up in a family that was very religious but into philosophy. So my parents would sit us down and would say, "What do you think about this? What do you think a person did this?" So
Yeah.
even as a child, we were allowed to ask, "Why did I do that?"
Hmm.
Now, of course, because we were in a bubble, the answer always had to be there was a pre-answer given. So when my parents asked us questions, they already were hoping we'd go towards a direction. Versus I think the other side of being when you go through the like introspection journey and you realize it's okay to also say, "I don't have the answer and I don't know." And it might be something so outside of our grasp as of understanding as a human species.
Yeah.
That felt scary to me because I'm a very doubting Thomas. I need concrete evidence of things. So when
Hmm.
people are like, "The universe is expanding, therefore God," I'm like, "Oh, my brain doesn't do that. My brain doesn't think because of this, unless, I mean, sometimes it does, sure, but not in that regard. When I'm talking about what is real, well, I need touch, feel, spank it. Like, I need to know, I need to have a relationship with it. And
That's
I
a hell
can
of a
have
relationship to have with God.
I'm just saying, and a lot of people have a relationship with God, which is beautiful and faith-based and wonderful and just it's just great. But I never could maintain that relationship. I was in a relationship with God for 19 years.
Mm.
And then it just felt like a breakup was necessary. You know what I mean? And it
Yep.
ended up being better for my joy, but that's just mine. I do not want to project onto the world that not believing in God is the goal. I don't want to project that narrative onto the world. I think belief is optional and it's up to you what you want to believe in. But
Did
I
you
think
say that?
go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, did you say that you were Baptist at once upon a time?
No. Catholic through and through. Roman
Oh,
Catholic.
geez. Okay.
Yeah, my whole life. And I love so much of Catholicism. I still love so much. But
Hmm.
again, it's not the belief I love. It's the relationship people have through discipline that I love in religion, or people have through
Yes.
sacrifice or suffering or giving to your fellow man. Like those are the messages I love in religion. But yeah, to be a part of that bubble, to say that, oh, I would like, my parents are always like, "Betsy, you'll be Catholic one day." And I said, you know when I'll be Catholic? When I have a relationship with God that's so profound that this isn't about believing anymore. It's about knowing.
Yes. Yes. My pops is actually a pastor, if you can believe that. So
Ooh.
I grew up in a very, very religious home, and I feel like your journey and like kind of the ways you ended up processing religion, and this is also why I wanted to talk about sex today. Whoop.
Yeah.
But I think that your journey with religion and everything is kind of similar to how I process it, because you're not just writing off like everything as a whole, it doesn't sound like, but there are
Yeah.
like disciplines that come with it. And that's something I've struggled with a lot. I personally never believed in God like whatsoever. Like
Really? Not even once?
not even once. When I was a kid and I would go to chapel and like all the other kids were like singing Jesus songs and stuff like that, I would like look around them and just be like, I think I'm going to hell. Like even as a 5-year-old, I thought that. I was like, whatever they're feeling that's making them shine for Jesus or whatever, I don't have that in my heart. Like
Wow.
I couldn't accept it. My friends would tell me literally stories like, "Hey, last night I was on the toilet and then the sky opened up and God came down and said, 'You're a good boy.'" And I was like, What? Why is God snubbing me here? Like, why am I not getting
That's
any
so
of this like
interesting.
Jesus stuff?" I just never felt any of that ever, and I really was like afraid of this. I felt like I was just like born like without like piece of you that's like worthy of salvation or something. I guess I just never like believed in God, but I was interested in the practices of religion as a result because, you know, I was like, well, you know, like whatever's broken in me, I guess like maybe the pieces are in here somewhere, if that
Yeah,
makes sense.
yeah. Can I
Yeah.
ask, when you were a child, did you ever feel like you fit really squarely into a bubble? Is there a bubble like you really believed in or like you would have died for, a belief or something?
You mean as far as like philosophy or just like common interests or?
Well, any, like, let's say, like, did you ever, because I'm asking because I think it's always interesting when kids are in an environment where they don't feel like they're attached to it, because
Mhm.
the question is, why do they know that? Why do they feel not attached? And
Yeah.
sometimes I have a theory about these kids called gray children that I made up, but like
Mm.
it coincides with the levels where I was like, it's their kids who are kind of like threes,
Okay.
because like they didn't ever adapt to the bubble versus me. Like, oh, I was crying in church, I was in confession, I was
Yeah.
100% in it to win it. But like
Yes,
one of my
exactly.
siblings was always like, what are we doing here?
Yes. Yes, and he was a
This
gray child, it sounds like, if
Yeah, it
that's
was
the
she,
way
but
that.
yeah,
Oh,
like,
she, okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's
yeah.
not a gendered thing to be a gray
It
child, I
is not a
imagine.
gendered thing, but
Yeah.
it is a question I've always wondered. But then they do revert. Like threes are kind of glorified twos, right? They revert back and forth into the bubbles. They try to figure out their homes until they
Mhm.
decide to cross that bridge into, you won't have a bubble the same way. Like I could never go
Yes.
back to my favorite bubbles and not pretend, but when I was in them, I was in them. Like they were my life, my air, everything I breathed, everything I did. And now I couldn't even imagine being a permanent resident and not just a visitor,
Mhm.
because I
You know,
can't go back there.
I think I understand that. I think that, like, I didn't try and, like, find myself in, like, that bubble necessarily. What I did start identifying really strongly with was, like, my creativity and my imagination. Bec
Ah,
To me, like, I felt like at least I know that I'm, like, creating a world here, you know? I
yeah.
know that it's me. I know that this is, like, stuff that I'm, like, using my own, like, spirit and energy to, like, kind of construct. Whereas, like, I felt like God was a construction where I just, you know, it's not me and it's nothing that, like, and they're trying to tell me it's real too, you know? Like, it's
Mhm.
not like anything I can be like, "Okay, cool, I can put myself into here, I can, like, kinda twist my imagination." No, there are rules, it's rigid, you know?
Yeah.
So, I tried to escape all that by writing originally. I was, like,
Love
a
it.
child author, I was, like, writing stories all the time, I was,
That's
like, trying to
great.
draw cartoons. Eventually, I became a musician, and that's kind of where my main outlet for this stuff is
I've seen
now.
you play actually. I saw some of
Oh,
your streams. Like I'll notice when you stream because I get the notification and I'll click on it. And I'm
yeah.
just like, oh my God, he actually plays.
Yes, I mean, I actually
I love
tour the
it.
country in a rock band, I
That
mean,
is
you know, I
amazing.
do this
It's
for real.
amazing. I love
I
that so much.
That's awesome, thank you. But the other thing I do is I write. I have like an actual like published author career, and I feel like that's just
Really?
like, yeah, I try to just like write
Wow.
about stuff that I think is like interesting. You know, I like Chuck Palahniuk stuff that's like really
Yeah.
dark and stuff. So,
Yeah.
I recently came out with a book called Metro 8: A Star Is Born. It's about like a pop star in a dystopic sci-fi future who is abused by the powerful and the elite because you know, she's kind of like brainwashed by the manager and the record label and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, so
How
I
could people
decided
find it? Like if we Googled it, what do we Google?
uh you can look up Metro 8: A Star Is Born, or you can go to sleevetrocks.com. I got basically
Sleeve
all my
tea.
stuff there.
Let's go, guys. Let's go. I'll put the links to after the live show. I'll make sure to add all your socials because I want people to definitely check that out. That's
Yeah.
so exciting.
To take thank you so much. To bring it back home though, this is like really like what became my God, like my bubble
Oh,
is
I
like
see.
this is the world I constructed that replaced religion in my mind.
Yep. Yep.
And so a lot of the stuff that I ended up pursuing was just stuff that I wanted to like create for myself that felt like, you know, ethereal, larger than like my physical existence here, that they were trying to kind of like fit me into with the God box. But to
Yep.
me, I was just like, that's not what I want. What I want is like what I feel, and I want to, I hate to use this word, manifest for myself, you know?
Yeah. Now,
um,
question, because
yeah.
I was an aspiring author when I was a kid, and maybe one day I'll do it. And I wrote like a bunch of books I self published or a bunch of books that I tried to give out to friends. But one thing I noticed is that I was in the book bubble, I was in the author bubble. And like people were telling me, like, to be a good author, you have to do it this way, and everything has to be done this way. And I'm like, I was so stressed by the rules and constraints of the bubble that I was like, as much as I love the New York Times bestseller list, it also feels like a weird club that I don't know how to be a part of. So
Yeah.
did you feel yourself like falling into that bubble and becoming a part of it? Or do you feel like you were always on the sidelines and interacting with it? How do you feel about that?
I really hate to sound like I'm just trying to be like the ultimate black sheep outsider here, but like I truly wrote for myself. Like it was
Mm.
all I read a lot, like I like
Yes.
reading books. I'm a big fan of Stephen King. The most
Yeah.
recent book series I read that I really loved was The Three Body Problem. Highly recommend checking that one out.
Cool.
So I really like reading, and like my mom was an English teacher, and she was once upon a time an author who, like I said, she got to level 3 and kind of like gave that journey up to go back to corporate America. And I kind of like
Mhm.
made a decision in my head, like I never want to give up the things that I'm artistically passionate about. I need to keep chasing these things that make me feel
Yeah.
like myself.
Yeah.
So to me, it was never like I'm in part of like a writer bubble. I'm like trying to impress other authors. I'm trying to like
Right.
emulate my favorite stuff. I really just I like coming up with ideas. I like embracing my creativity. I like just manifesting the things that I think are cool ideas. And also, one thing, I'm in a band. Being in a
Yeah.
band is like almost like a marriage. You have to like deal with like 4 other people at all times. You have to like, constantly grind things out. Your success isn't always like your own like thing to embrace, because if there's a bad part of the band, then like everything else gets out
Yeah.
of whack. But writing is, you can do that all for yourself. Your success is
Yeah.
entirely dependent on like your own ambition, your own ideas, like your own like will to make it happen. So I really like that about writing. I feel freed by it. Like nobody's holding me back on it. If I finish this story and I put it out there, that's a win for me that I made happen for myself.
I'm curious, did you ever read Stephen King's book on writing? Like how
On
to
writing,
write?
yes. Yes, I have
Okay,
that one.
that book when I was in my 20s, I like destroyed that book. Like I was constantly like, what is this? And then you mentioned Fight Club. You mentioned
Pal Newick, yeah.
yeah. So when I was in my 20s, I had this idea that I was going to be a writer, and I saw his Tumblr. And his Tumblr, somebody asked him, should I write in my 20s? And he said, no, you should live in your 20s and write in your 30s about your 20s or about your life when you've learned something. And
Yes.
that was the message that because I had been writing all these books, and oh my God, I remember I wrote a sex scene as a virgin, and my
Yes.
editor read it and he goes, you've never had sex. And I was like, oh, I was like, I have never had sex. Okay.
Oh.
And it's like true. So I did that. I saw that Tumblr reply. I said, okay, well, I fucking love Fight Club. So, okay, I'll listen. And I did. And I lived out this great, wonderful life. And now that I'm aging into my 30s, I think I am going to write a real book. And I think it
Yeah.
is going to be something that is meaningful and not just a test. It's going to be
Mhm.
something that it's like a product. I think it's going to take about another 5 to so many years to do it. Like, I think I'm going to be very much more established in what I'm doing at like 42, right? Which is why I'm
Yes.
so excited about aging and getting older and figuring it out, because I'm still tool gathering. That's all I'm doing. Can I take this tool? Can I take this tool? So that's
I
just,
can't
yeah,
wait for you to write a book. That's gonna be like really like an incredible one, because like
I hope.
every time you talk about your life experiences, I'm just like, dang, I just like learned like a whole world of new stuff about Brittany right now. If you were able to like like channel that into like fiction, or even
Yeah.
like a nonfiction version, I think that would be fascinating. And by the way, your profile banner there on your Twitter, that's like the
Mhm.
perfect New York Times like bestseller, like Brittany
Let's go.
Simon like billboard. I see it
Yeah.
manifesting already. All
I
right.
love that so much. I think so. I think, like, you know what it is? I'm just so open to whatever happens, whether I publish a book or don't publish a book. It just, as long as I'm following my joy and as long as I'm focused on what I'm doing, I
Yes.
think that that's kind of the key point. So I'm open to anything, but when I was younger, I'd send my, to agents. I try to get a book agent. I try to find a publisher. I would try to, and then I realized like this is a stress I was putting myself under to fit a notion of myself that I wanted to be, like the next, Carrie Bradshaw from Sex and the City, or the next like sex columnist, or this. And then I realized I just want to be the Brittany that I am in the moment. And I'm going to let that future Brittany make the decision. So my job right now as a Brittany is to collect tools for that Brittany, you
And
know?
you have a voice is the important part, like
Mm,
as far as like the mechanical skills of writing, that's something I
yeah.
feel like you can learn. But like
Yeah.
the important thing is that, you told me you used to like call into Sean Hannity and like,
Yeah.
like have like radio appearances and stuff. You've got
Yeah.
stuff you want to say. You have a
True.
voice, you have a narrative, and you have like something to contribute to the popular zeitgeist, I would say. Did I really just say that?
True.
Popular zeitgeist?
I'll,
Um,
I'll take it. But yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
good. Yeah, you have like something to say, and I think that's absolutely the most important part. If you have like, that story that you are able and willing to tell, everything else will come. Your will to put those
Yeah.
words to paper, just like figuring out how to like make them sound the best. As long as you got the story, that's the most important part, and I know you have that.
Thank you. I hope so. Well,
Yeah.
here's to hoping for the future to go as well as the present does. Because right now, my focus is always on keeping the present flowing
Hmm.
and going. And right now, I mean, I'm just so grateful for how things are going that I know that in the future, as long as I keep it up, like things will always be pretty good.
I want to talk about sex, Brittany. Is that okay
Oh
with
my
you?
God. Yes. I love the change of subject. Bring it. I love
Perfect.
it.
We that was really cool, by the way, talking about the levels and where we're at in
Yeah. That
life.
was great.
Really happy to have gone through that. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
Hit
gonna be
me.
so nice in this interview. I swear to God. Just very excited to be talking to you.
I love it.
Um, so I wanted to talk about kinks a little bit,
Yes.
because we had talked a little bit behind the scenes about my particular kink, which is that of brat taming. But I wanted to
Yes.
ask you a question first and foremost, just so we can kind of set the tone, I guess. You said in the Mr. Girl interview that you enjoyed and were excited by getting yelled at. I
Yeah.
just wanted to know a little bit more about this. I just wanted to see if you could maybe elaborate a little bit about like what you find exciting about that, or how you
Yeah. I
discovered that.
definitely want to specify because it's not just any yelling. So everyone stop trying to yell at me right now. I just feel it in my
Yeah,
nuggets. People
yeah,
are gonna
yeah.
start doing that.
Don't You're not
It's
turning her on with that.
it's creating the right environment through negotiation, consent-based negotiation, to allow what would normally be awful to
Hmm.
be something that could be something that I could use to explore myself. It's a tool. So BDSM and kink to me is a tool to know myself better and to know my partners better. So I can meditate using it. I could just have fun using it. But even fun gives you a tool of knowing.
Hmm.
So being yelled at is not something I enjoy outside of a very specific context.
Sure.
So within kink, within BDSM, I like the idea of being put in a hostile situation that's safe in which I can navigate myself out of.
Yes.
So that's
Um,
what I like. Mhm.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, because that makes sense. Because I think that there is a misunderstanding out there in this type of environment where people are like, okay, well, she said that she had like, a brat taming kink. She said she had like, like a being yelled at kink or something like that. And then they use it to almost channel abusive energy into the
Yes.
relationship, rather
Yes.
than strictly negotiating a scene where, like you can explore certain sensations, feelings. Yelling is a very emotionally charged thing, but you
Exactly.
have to do it within a context. Whereas I feel like a lot of people, their whole thing is like, okay, she likes it rough. She likes, to be yelled at, and they just use it as an excuse to be a piece of shit to their partner. I
Yes.
was just
That's my
wondering what your
biggest
experience
pet
is with
peeve.
that.
It's my biggest ultimate pet peeve. It's what like it like ooh, I just want to like ooh, it just makes me so angry because it's not the point. The point was not to create an excuse to abuse our partners. The
Hmm.
point was to create a safe environment, at least the way that I was brought up in BDSM. And that's a bubble thing. It was like my bubble of BDSM was that you were utilizing this tool to know yourself and people better, to
Hmm.
actually challenge yourself, to face parts of yourself that you're not so happy with. Now, it's not therapy. I think BDSM can be like meditation therapeutic, but meditation isn't therapy either. So
Yes.
remember that you're not replacing, because a lot of people who get into kink, because it's such a free space, I think they do forget that it's not a place for therapy. But I think it can coincide. So my therapist in Seattle was BDSM educated and aware. She wasn't
Oh,
kinky
nice.
herself. She wasn't even BDSM herself, but it's Seattle and she knows so many people who are BDSM.
Yeah, of
So
course.
it was really lovely talking to her about my mental health because she didn't write me off. Like she didn't use BDSM as the reason I was mentally ill.
Sure.
So it was really nice. But yeah, a big pet peeve, utilizing even religion, politics, status, gender, economic status. Like, don't use any excuse to abuse people.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that's really cool that she was educated in that kind of stuff, because I feel
Yes.
like in some of these situations, people even want to talk about some of these like sexual kinks or things that are maybe a little bit outside the norm, and yet they don't want to be judged for it. And there is knowledge about like, the sub community that's not you have to have in order to relate to your client, I would guess.
Yes.
So that's awesome that she had
Yeah.
that response. Did you have like was it like a messy experience, like kind of like realizing that that kind of scene worked for you? Did you have it like maybe outside of a negotiation, realized you resonated with parts of it and wanted to clean it up a little bit? Because that's what happened with
Mm.
me's, and I'll tell you about my situation,
Oh,
but I just want to hear like how you discovered
yeah.
it.
I actually, because I was homeschooled until I was 15 and then I went to public school,
Oh,
I was
right on.
mostly like curious my whole life. And I've read over 2,000 books, and a lot of those books were fictional and a lot of them had BDSM themes in them. And I was like, oh, that's weird. Like you're reading like Kishiel's Dart, which is like high sci fi, but then all
Hmm.
of a sudden there's like these elements of kink and BDSM, and you're like, can I do that in real life? And then I'm reading
Mm.
book after book after book, and I'm like, can I do this in real life? And then when I turned 21, I lived with a friend and their parent. And their parent was like, I have to sit you down and explain something to you. And I said, okay. And they said, just so you know, I'm in this lifestyle called BDSM. And I was like, wait,
Mm.
oh my God, it's real. And they were like, yes. And I was like, oh my God, it's real. And I was like, I've read all these books and I didn't know if it was real. And like, I wasn't a kid who knew how to even go anywhere but MySpace. I didn't know you could find a real community of people that practiced BDSM as a lifestyle. So
Yes.
I was brought in by a really amazing person. I was like a virgin at my first dungeon party, and everyone's like, oh,
Oh
a,
shoot.
a clothed virgin. And they were like, what do we do with this? And I was like, hello. I was like the only person not naked at the party. And I was like, hi. And now here I am, like walking naked everywhere. Like it was a really positive and transformative experience. But a lot of my desire came from books, like just reading about it in books, concepts around BDSM and kink. So I'm
Yeah.
just excited I found out it was real.
Yeah, I actually like how you talked about how you were a virgin writing sex scenes. I'm gonna confess something super embarrassing, which is when I was about like 12, 13, I was also writing like very graphic sex scenes when I was, like for like,
Yep.
I don't know, like all these like online fiction forums I was contributing to. It
Yes.
was like literally how I was getting in touch with like my sexuality as a kid.
Yeah.
I was just like, well, I can't find any girls who want to do this in real life right now, so maybe I'll kind of like write out what I think would be hot, and maybe someday I can put this into practice,
See?
which
I
ended
love
up being
that.
which ended up being a good idea, by
Please
the
tell
way.
me your
At least,
story. I'm curious. How did it
oh
go?
yeah. Now I don't know if a trigger warning is necessarily like appropriate right here, but this is kind of an intense story. I don't want to like,
Okay.
and I don't want to like bubble up any bad feelings for anybody.
Okay.
I'm just telling this one just to be vulnerable,
Okay.
because this is how it happened for me. So I was dating a girl who was like considerably younger than me. She was about 23. I was in my 30s.
Mhm.
So she was like she was a model. She was aspiring to do like a bunch of stuff in the town. We were kind of like bonding over that. But she was a little bit of a brat, She had
Mm.
a little bit of like, she liked to talk back a little bit. She liked to
Yeah.
like say sarcastic things like, "Ugh, I don't understand why you'd even do that," that kind of stuff. And sometimes she tried to like see how far she could push it. I'm not really like a type of person who likes to be like punked. I don't really like anybody trying to assert any kind of like dominance on me or anything. So I would like find myself just like kind of always just being like, will you shut the fuck up? Like I would always
Yeah.
kind of like find myself giving like almost like this negative energy. Then one
Mm.
night, like it just bubbles up to the point where she's like saying like stuff like, like you're lucky I don't like hit you or something like that. She's like just really like yelling at me, really
Mm.
giving it to me. And I finally like there was something about it. I just like snapped. I was just like, I threatened to call the cops on her. I told her to shut the
Mm.
fuck up. I was like really like it was an intense fucking moment. And by the end of it, she was just like in tears, like on the couch. And I was just like
Mm.
thinking like that was really fucking intense. I sat down next to her, and then the first thing she did was grab my face. We started like making out. Before I
Mhm.
knew it, the sobs turned into moans, and we ended up having a really intense sexual experience.
Yeah.
To which afterwards she said, I need to tell you something. What we just did is maybe the hottest sexual experience I've ever had in my life. And
Mm.
I don't know about how we got there. I think that was probably the wrong way, but
Mhm.
I really, those emotions that were sparked up were powerful, and they really
Yeah.
like led to something that's like really was satisfying for me. I
Yeah.
was wondering if we could like find a way to explore this in a more healthy manner.
Mhm.
I like to
Yeah.
talk back a little bit, but I don't like how guys usually just let me like, do this, mouth off, like, kind of be a brat. I need someone to put me in my place. And what you
Yeah.
did, while it was not negotiated, I want to explore you doing that for me in a more structured way. And
Yeah.
I was like, wow, she's like saying like everything that I felt like I was like Satan for last night.
Yes.
Like maybe there's a way to like explore this like really crazy dynamic where we have like these intense emotions that we've basically like kind of bubbled up and manipulated to happen, but it
Mhm.
leads to like these heightened states of emotion, physicality that ended up being bombastic sex that like we continued to explore for a while after that.
Yeah.
But like I said, I think that like the way that we kind of got to that knowledge was not healthy, but the
Yeah.
negotiation we had afterwards and the thing that we had actually like, come to an agreement on was healthy.
Yeah.
So that's how I discovered brat taming. She just
Okay,
told me
love
that
it.
was super hot, and she just wanted to like continue to do that in a more like scene oriented way where we negotiated
Yes.
it.
Yes. I love
What
the
are your thoughts about
self-awareness.
that?
The self-awareness is so key. I think a lot of people ride the train of like dysfunction because it's kind of chemically rewarding. And
Yes.
I think that the healthy version of that is probably better. And usually that's orchestrated, what I call like scene dysfunction. So, hey, I would like to do a scene where we explore dysfunction without either of us thinking we actually hate each other, dislike each other, or want harm for each other. So I will say, like, I'm considered a pretty heavy psychological player. And so that's why I'm really picky about who I play with, because the last thing I want to
Mm.
do is actually hurt any of my partners. Like the last thing I want to do. So I'm very like slow to the fire because of that. But I also know that in my outside of even BDSM, I found myself in toxic relationships where the best sex we were having was the break up and get back together sex. And so I
Yes.
was like, what is this chemical high we're riding? Don't you think we're riding this chemical high? Now, I discovered because of BDSM, we could recreate that chemistry high, that like chemical high, without the abuse, without the unhealthiness. But
Yes.
again, you have to be healthy enough to want it healthy,
Yeah, and
or
you're
you have to, be open to that.
yeah,
Mhm.
and we made a decision to educate ourselves on that, like you and me, I mean.
Great. Oh, yeah,
Y
me and you. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like you and me decided we wanted to understand this dynamic, but you say like, the breakup sex, the get back
Mm.
together sex, that kind of thing. A lot of people get really addicted to that kind of stuff,
Yeah, they
and they'll
do.
never have any idea why. Like they'll
They
just like
won't. They
yeah, they'll
really
just
won't.
like they'll get that emotional high and they'll just like be like, "Wow, this feels so dysfunctional." And yet it
Yep.
feels like so exciting. Like there's something that's like primal that's like being woken
Yeah.
up. So that's like almost like how I don't want to just like downplay anybody, but like normies, like that's how
Mm.
they would kind of explore a similar like BDSM kink. They just have no idea what they're doing when they do the breakup, fight, and then get back together and have intense sex
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
thing.
I think a lot of people are unknowingly, and not maliciously, but they're unknowingly actually utilizing people for their kinks or for their curiosity or for their like they don't even know what they could that's why I say like information is just tools. Reading a book is a tool. Watching a movie is an opportunity for you to pop a bubble and realize, like, oh, this thing I wanted, like, maybe I could have it in a healthy way. This thing I desired, maybe I could do it in this way. There's I think everything could be toxic or healthy. So, like, open relationships could be toxic, could be healthy.
Also
Monogamy
want to
could
talk
be
about that,
toxic.
by the way.
Oh, I would love to. I think anything you do could be either doing drugs, could be toxic or healthy.
Yes.
So,
It's all about the frame of reference that you put on these
yes.
things.
And
And it's
do you think it has to do with values as well of the person? Because I will say, how many abuse do you know of any like predators in BDSM communities? Like that is a thing. Like
Actually, I
predators
don't
show up
know about
everywhere.
that.
Pre-
Are
pre-
there predators in the
oh,
BDSM community?
yes, let me tell you. And they're very smart, like predators are, and they learn the rules. They learn how to talk about consent. They learn how to
Yeah.
build your trust. And that's why I always say, like, everyone's doing BDSM differently. Everyone's doing kink differently. Make sure you're on the same page because you
Yeah.
will run into toxic people. You're running into people. I have met so many players that are like, hey, Brittany, I want to play with you. And I was like, why? And they're like, well, I want to brat tame you. And I was like, okay.
Mm.
And especially now that I'm moving into my 30s and away from that space, it's a little different. But when I was in my 20s and I was in that brat head space every time, that was my primary identity.
Yeah.
More than even a submissive, I was a brat. And people would always approach me because these tops love to brat tame. And they're like, I want to brat tame you. And it felt like they weren't creating a symbiotic relationship where we were learning about each other. It felt like they were like, my ego's so big and I have to know that I can tame you.
Yeah, it's like a one-sided thing, exactly. And I think that's actually like the biggest problem with a lot of sex nowadays, honestly, is the fact that like people are kind of using other people for
Yes.
their own selfish gains. Like me personally, like one of the reasons I like talking about consent so much is because
Yeah.
I think that like what's really important towards my own sexual enjoyment is just knowing that the person is having a good time with me and that I'm doing things
Yes.
that they're into. I used to like
Yes.
before I knew how to talk about consent. I'm not saying I ever crossed lines or that like, I did things that
Mhm.
I think like women were uncomfortable with, but just
Sure.
like having the conversations and knowing that for sure, like knowing that what we're doing is something that she's into, she's comfortable with, we've
Yes.
talked about it. That's where the best sex is.
Oh, it relieves so much anxiety. Like even me, like I've been with men, women, non-binary people. I've been the top, I've been the bottom, and it's always like, especially when I'm the top, I'm like, oh my gosh, am I doing this right? Like I just want to
Yeah.
make sure I'm not violating. That's why I'm a big safe word fan because it allows us to let go. And then once I hear the safe word, it's like, oh, wait, we're no longer in the fun anymore. Because yeah, if you're playing with emotions, if you're playing with physicality, if you're playing like, if you're doing blood play like I do, then you
Oof.
have to be open to the idea that things could go wrong. And then the
Yeah.
question is, hopefully they weren't intentional, and hopefully it wasn't because of extreme neglect. Hopefully it was a
Yes.
genuine mistake. Now let's get to the point where it's going to be a genuine mistake. Like when I did needle play for the first time, I went and talked to doctors.
Mm.
I took classes. I learned how to sanitize my needles, how to throw away my needles. What was the rule? And then I would play in my own apartment. I would play in my own house where I felt comfortable. And then I could do it without needing the doctor there, because a lot of BDSMers who are doctors will volunteer their time to
Oh,
help us.
interesting.
Yes, and lawyers and people will
Based.
help us. Yes, like I was really lucky in Seattle. We actually had a physical dungeon. It had like 35,000 members. We
Yeah.
had a
Dang.
real community. We had an actual place. I was there every day after work. Like I loved that place. So
Wow.
again, but this was just because I had a mentor and she brought me in, and then she taught me like how to move in these circles, how to find people. And
Mhm.
so that's something that I love to do with my callers. If anyone's like kink curious, like you can actually book a call with me and I will guide you through. This is the websites to use. These are the people that are good. Here's a red flag. Here's a green flag. Like I
Right.
love, because the more safety I can bring to my community, the better my community becomes.
Yes, exactly. Safety is like really Jen and I have this joke from Wolf on Wall Street. We always say safety is first, you know. It really
Exactly.
is like the number one thing is like, and that's where like when we talk about like aftercare and things like that, a lot of times
Yeah.
people think about just like the physical aftercare, like,
Yes.
kind of like soothing the wounds and what have you. But it's really like there's this element of like emotional wounds that I feel like need to also be like attended to, because you
Absolutely.
really need to like check in with your partner when you're engaging in like this level of kink.
Yeah.
In brat taming especially, sometimes mean things are said, sometimes like really like volatile emotions are like kind of bubbled up. You really need to
Mm-hmm.
like make sure you like sit like, how did that make you feel like afterwards? Like what was the,
Oh,
did you like actually like, did any of this like, do you think this is going to last beyond this experience? Do you think that you're now
yeah.
going to like see the things that I said to you like is different? Is there a
Yes.
line? And I feel like that's like the most important thing that I talk about personally if I
Mm.
do engage in brat taming is like, how did that make you feel? Is there a line that you feel like was crossed? Is there something you feel like was exciting territory to kind of move into? And that's the aftercare with that, is just like
Yeah.
reconnecting on an emotional level.
I agree, 100% agree, especially as somebody who like I love my aftercare. I think it's so important. Heck, I'm not even exaggerating. After an intense normal conversation with my partner, I'm like, "Do we need aftercare?"
Yep. Yeah. I mean, checking in with your partner is like really like one of the most crucial things that you can do. And I feel like
Yeah.
that's actually like the people who say that they have bad sex. I think that they're usually like struggling with the fact that they're not communicating with their partner
Yeah.
enough. They're not like figuring out like, are we on the same page? Are we
No
doing
one's
things that we're both?
communicating.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
telling you. No one
That's
is. Sorry, I just get so frustrated with this subject because you're
handle
right.
it.
And then usually when I ask them, I'm like, "Have you asked them this?" They're like, "Oh, no." And I'm like, "Have you asked them this?" They're like, "No." And I'm like, "Sir, what information are we even working off of then?"
Yes, yes. Like, and I feel like it's a difficult conversation to have is why.
Yes. Yeah.
Sex is messy. The emotions that come up like with physical encounters can be messy. Like sometimes you're like, hey, like I was so goddamn horny before I got into this situation. Now we've done the act, like now it was a little bit maybe messier than I was expecting.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe like,
Mm-hmm.
like this element, like, like I felt like I was going to be like ready to go. And then I felt like maybe a little nervous here when I ended up doing this or something.
Yeah.
There's like so many things you have to talk about, and they're like they're vulnerable conversations. A lot of people don't
They
like to take themselves into that place.
The vulnerability, especially if you use kink or BDSM as like a form of vulnerability, intimacy, like
Hmm.
it can be so intense. But also just like regular old vanilla couples, they have great opportunity for an incredibly vulnerable, intimate sex that they also are not negotiating. They're not talking it through. There's a lot of confusion. And I know we're raised that way. At least I was raised with this idea that we should talk to our partners. But also since I was raised not to have sex outside of marriage, it's like, well, and then don't talk to boys about your sex life. I'm like, what? Okay. I need practice. Like I need some sort of like practice in negotiating. I feel like the greatest thing the BDSM community gave me was time to
Hmm.
practice negotiating.
Yes. Yeah. And let me ask you this. Do you think that like religion like really played into like how you view like, your own sexuality and what have you? As mentioned, I never believed in God even when I was like 5 years
Yeah.
old. And my first sexual experience, I think, was when I was like 13. So I just never really had like any hangups about sex at all.
Yeah.
Religion was not an element of this. I was never like, am I disappointing Jesus? Like
Yeah.
that never crossed my mind. So I'm curious like what your thoughts were on that.
Let me tell you, I'm pretty lucky. So I became an atheist before I had sex.
Ooh.
So I
Ooh.
left the church at 19 and had sex at 22.
Okay.
So I had no religious guilt, no shame associated with sex. I was years out of that bubble. So by the
Yeah.
time I had sex for the first time, I mean, I picked a boy I worked with. I was like, "Do you want to have sex with me?" And like he was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Okay, cool. It's my first time though." He's like, "Great." And then I actually asked, like, I had told a bunch of coworkers, like, I haven't had sex for the first time and I'm looking for someone to do it with. And
Mm.
so a few people volunteered and then I picked one. And then
Uh,
like within the few weeks we were having sex or whatever, I mean, legit, he already brought out the belt. We were doing kinky shit. And because we were doing kinky shit, and he told one of my coworkers who's a girl, she came up to me and was like, "Hey, I'm in BDSM." I was like, "Oh." And then when him and I stopped being lovers, she and I started dating.
oh, dang. So
I was
you really
so,
like you were willing to
yeah.
explore like right away. I mean, like
Oh, I
that's
was ready. Let me tell you, I had waited long enough.
yeah, yeah, that's exactly it. Like I said, I think that that's interesting because like a lot of people in the religious community who I've talked to, they end up having
Hmm.
some interesting experiences
Oh,
with
they
sex as a
do.
result. I know a
Yeah.
lot of girls waited till marriage, did they thought that that was going to be the best way to preserve like, their chastity and offer the best
Yeah.
like, sexual experience. And now they're like married and they're multi-year into their marriage, they still have not had an orgasm once,
Oh, that
you
pains
know?
me. It pains me. I wish maybe in another life, I don't want to go to school to get officialized by the bubble to say that now you can give advice because then you're beholden to like something else, like the licensing board. So I
Sure.
want to, but I wish I could talk to couples that, even religious couples that are having a hard time with their intimacy. So I could be like, okay, let's talk about it because
Yeah.
there's so much intimacy and vulnerability to be had, so much closeness that they're missing out on. And it's
Mhm.
so sad because I don't think either parties want to be there. But if they can't talk about it, if they can't bring it up, if they can't discuss it, and then of course your partners take it personal. One of the things my partner and I do to make sure that we are not accidentally hurting each other is we'll say, "Hey, can we analytically talk about this thing? Or can we
Mm.
emotionally engage with this conversation?" So if I'm feeling like emotionally, I'd be like, "Hey, I'm not really feeling like I'm orgasming and this is really hurting me." And maybe we can have, that's an emotional versus, "Hey, babe, analytically speaking, no, I'm loving our intimacy. I would like to improve it. I would like to be closer to you. I would like to be, this is
Mm.
how I think we could do it." That's a suggestion for, that's a problem and a solution. It's very like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's, I
I
want to be better than we even are.
the way you're talking about that even, I feel like most people talk about it like in the emotional sense. It's like, I'm
Yeah.
not having an orgasm, and so therefore I'm in a sad place where my partner isn't satisfying me. And so,
Right.
and I don't mean to downplay people who are having
Of
trouble with
course.
orgasms, but I think that like the way you're talking about it, like more functionally, is usually how I talk about it. I'm usually
Yeah.
like, hey, like it was really hot when we did this. I think that that was like super cool. Are you ever open to some notes about how you might be able to make this experience just a little bit better? Like,
Yeah, with each
and then
other.
you
It's a
can
tool.
yeah,
We
and then you
want
can
to
talk
improve the
about that.
tool.
Yes, you could be like, "Hey, so I think that it's like really hot when you do this. Would you ever think about like maybe doing this?" Like you kind of like bounce
Yeah.
off some ideas before and like I said, I really like consent for this reason. I like the
Yes.
negotiation. I think it's super hot. I like talking about things we can theoretically do. So then when we do them, we're more comfortable with them.
Yes.
But
Yeah,
like
me too.
yeah, but it's like an analysis, it's like to be crass, it's like, like I feel like you didn't make me orgasm versus like, hey, when you put your tongue like right here, if you moved it maybe like 2 inches to the left, it would have like unlocked like what I was looking for. You
Look,
know what I
I
mean? Like,
I have never I've been with quite a few people at this point in my life and I have
mm,
never been with a person that didn't mistake my lip for my clitoris, okay?
mm,
So like I'm always just like and 2 inches to the right, 2 inches to the left and okay.
right.
Now I'm very good and comfortable with giving in people instruction, which I think helped me throughout my life. Where
Yeah.
I'm like, "Hey, I love you so much. Now I need you to do it this way." Or I'll even turn it into the fantasy while I'm going at it where
Mm,
I'll like lay down the hints while we're in the fantasy if we don't want to interrupt it too much. But then I'll also yellow and be like, "Yellow, lick me harder. Yellow, lick me slower. Yellow, give me more." It's like I'm
yep.
trying to send the message to them that you're doing great. This is like, you know what I'm saying? Let's expand on it more. And like now that I've dated enough people and been with enough people, now I have like just an amazing set of tools
Yeah.
to further communicate my needs and not at the expense of my partner and not at
Yeah.
the expense of my lover, not at the expense of that person. Because again, they're also vulnerable. This is a very vulnerable situation.
Do you think
And
that
so
anybody gets offended by that?
I think it's how you say it. One time I was doing a threesome with my ex and them. And so three of us, okay, in bed. And we're doing this threesome and it's two, me and him are topping her. Okay. We're like doing this
Mm,
thing. It's great. It's like really hot. We're like
right
torturing
on.
her with a vibrator. It's like she's like getting ready to squirt. It's like a whole thing. But then him and I look at each other and silently have a conversation because we noticed a smell from her discharge. And I was like,
Ooh.
"Oh, this is different. This is unique. What is happening? And then I looked at him and we are like, let's like literally we did this all nonverbal. I was like, keep going. And he's like, we have to keep going. We can't deny her an orgasm. I was like, that's just bad manners. So we had her come, we cleaned up, we cuddled and kissed and did aftercare. And then
Yep.
the next day I called her and I was like, hey girl, great time last night. Had a blast. Woman to woman, I think you might have a yeast infection. No judgment. And she was like, oh my God. And she didn't grow up with a mom or a dad who really was there for her.
Yeah.
And so she was never taught about yeast infections, never taught about her body.
Yes.
And so I was this now person who could be like, check it out. No big deal. Yeast infections happen for the dumbest reasons. Let's talk about how we can clear them up. And she did. She went to her doctor. She cleared it up. She was so grateful that I had come to her and told her. Because what's worse than thinking you're sexy as hell and then other people are thinking like, because and we never stopped having sex with her because
Yeah,
why
good.
would just because of a one bad moment? Like who cares? Like it's
Yeah.
gonna happen. So
And
I
you can
think
fix
it's
that
how
stuff. You
you
can fix that stuff
fix
with
it.
with proper communication. That's
Yes.
the kind of stuff you can fix. And I love that you're saying this, by the way, because that's actually why Jen wanted to do like the forms of sex work that she did. She wants to
Yeah.
like really help people like explore like, these intimate things that like maybe they just didn't quite have like the access or resources to. Threesomes are
Yeah.
a great example. There are like a lot of couples who just want to know what it's like to maybe have like another girl in bed. They want to like actually
Yeah.
like have like somebody else who can educate like their woman on how to like please their man a little bit better, things like that. Like
I
the
love
threesome.
that.
Yeah, the threesomes that like Jen and I have are much more recreational because we're like on the level where we have that knowledge and understanding. But she
Yeah.
likes to like give that knowledge and understanding to like
Love
other
that.
people.
Love
And that's
that.
I really think that that's cool that you have that experience too, because you have that need to educate, help people get better with their sexuality, embrace their bodies. Like I think that's
Yes.
like really like
Yes.
a cool endeavor. That's why like her sex work doesn't offend me at all,
Yes.
like with
That's
our
awesome.
relationship. I love how she's like giving people these tools personally.
I think that that's what it is because my partner is also very supportive of my OnlyFans and stuff like that. And I think
Right
a big
on.
part of it is that he knows that I'm trying to do something. And a big part of it is I had this dream when I was younger of being a fairy fuck mother where I was like, I will fuck people into knowledge. I will give them the knowledge of how to be good intimately and vulnerable. But I can't actually do it because I'm such a homebody and an isolated person that I use
Sure.
OnlyFans or I use YouTube to kind of proxy do that. So maybe
Yeah.
I'm not sleeping with everyone, but damn it, if I could, okay, if it was more convenient,
Uh,
I just want to give people those tools because I just know how much my life improved. And
mhm.
if I, again, I'm not saying my tools are universal,
Yeah.
but if they're made for you, then you really need them, girl, because you're going to change your life.
And you're a great teacher, by the way. So I think
Thank
if the tools
you.
are useful for you, then there's no better person to learn them from than our girl
Thank
Brittany
you.
Simon over here.
Thank you.
Let me move to open relationships, if that's okay with
Yes. Oh, I
you.
love it. Mhm.
Because that's that's where Jen and I are with our relationship. And so
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to get a point of reference from you. And by the way, nothing you're gonna be able to say to me is gonna make me feel offended about like
Okay,
I
good.
want just honest feedback. Just go ahead and
Yes.
throw it out there.
Okay.
Because open relationships, like one thing we were talking about, I think, is that we're curious about how to do them ethically. And
Mm.
it is a minefield you're walking out there. So I want to just like kind of talk about like the best way to even like have like multiple partners. Like what are some of
Mm.
the lines you can like maybe like cross where you're like, oh, well, this should be activity only for my partner. This should be like activity like, like that's I should narrow it a lot more for like just romantic partners, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. How do you see that? How do you see like the appropriate separation between partners?
Gosh, it's so hard to say because I'm so context based that
Mhm.
I would almost need to know what is the desire of the individuals in the relationship, what's the desire goal relationship wise for the whole relationship, what's the mode? Are you open? Are you poly? Are you open
Sure.
but like what is all the ways you're doing it? And then I would always say separate from the scenario. So what I like to do is isolate myself and say, okay, if this person didn't exist and this wasn't here, is this something I would want to do? Or is this something I'm doing because my partner wants to do it? Or is this something because
Mm.
I'm monogamous with my partner?
Yeah.
And I could have gone either way, I think, realistically. I'm more of an adapt to my partner person because I'm indifferent to the type of relationship for the most part. I
Yeah.
mean, I think like convenience matters and how we're living our life can change how we do things, but it's not a moral or ethical reason I'm monogamous, right? It's just that's what's working.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're doing. But it really comes down to what are we doing here? What are our needs and how do we find our
Sure.
joy through this process? So I'm a big fan of open relationships. I'm a big fan of monogamy. I'm a big fan of what works.
Yes. And for me personally, I consider myself like polyamorous.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah, I think that like most of like even if they're sexual relationships, generally I build like more of a connection with like the people who I end up
Okay.
getting with. Now,
Yeah.
I want to caveat this by saying most this is kind of like my structure. I don't really like have like a lot of sexual partners like outside of Jen, because like how I like to do things is generally like if a girl likes to talk to me and she likes to flirt, she likes to sext, that kind of thing, I will do that like almost 100% of the time.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to like
Yeah.
talk sexy to me, you want to flirt with me, that kind of stuff, I'm almost
Yeah.
always game for that because I like flirting. I like,
Oh,
you know, engaging with my
totally.
sexuality. And I do think there's enough distance with that kind of thing where you can kind of have like a fun, flirty relationship with someone. You can kind of like inspire some of these feelings and they're like, you know, they're
Yeah.
fun, they're like enjoyable, but actually crossing over into a place where you want to sleep with someone is a little bit more serious for me.
Yeah, well, I think realistically, every time we're talking about ethics or morals, we're talking about what should we do that's right. We're
Mhm.
really asking about ourselves and our partners. So I always say, that saying like do right by people. Well, it's like do right by people, but people have to also be wanting to do right by you. So there's
Mhm.
no like malicious intent. Again, we want to avoid maliciousness and we want to elevate our lifestyles into something that's healthy. Now, not
Yes.
everybody has that goal, and not everyone describes dysfunction in the same way. But to me, if you're having a healthy, open relationship or a polyamorous relationship, you're having one with boundaries, one with
Yes.
consent as the foundation, and
Mhm.
one with understanding. And that means seriously considering your partner's feelings and ideas and really taking them very seriously about it instead of saying, "Oh, my boyfriend's so stupid today. He like literally wanted a hug." And I'm like, "What's happening?" It's like don't mock your partner for desiring vulnerability or intimacy. Instead, you should use this as an opportunity to be closer. But I think a lot of people have settled in their relationships, and I think a
Mhm.
lot of people don't talk about these things before they get married, and I
Yep.
think a lot of people unknowingly sometimes do cause harm to their relationships because they're thinking, well, I'm still doing what's right by me. But again,
Mhm.
when you're in a relationship, you're on a team, hopefully, I
Yes.
think. Now,
Yeah,
everyone does it
and
different, but
yeah, and the team kind of wants like a little bit different things like sometimes. And
yes.
let me just throw this one by
Mm,
you because like this is like how I'm like kind of digesting it.
yeah.
Jen and I like, you know, Jen doesn't want to have as many sex partners as like I do, you know.
Okay, great.
She doesn't really like her goal isn't to like, you know, go on Tinder, find a guy, like that kind of stuff. She doesn't even really like have like a lot of like close coworkers who she would want to hook
Mm,
up with. But what she does like doing is she really likes involving herself in sex work and she likes like having like in real life like clients. She
yeah.
likes to actually like help with other people's intimacy. She has like obviously her OnlyFans where she does like sexually explicit things for like other men. And that
Mm-hmm.
kind of stuff like does not bother me like whatsoever. Like
Yeah.
I have a very open mind about like even her having in real life clients. And so to me, like that's kind of like where sometimes, you know, I guess like the fresh and fit crew would be like, if you really
Mm,
loved your girl, that you would never be okay with her like doing that kind of thing,
yeah.
being all over the place. But like with me, like that's totally okay because like as far as our open relationship is concerned, like that's kind of like what she wants to explore that I guess like some men like aren't okay with, but I'm
Yeah.
fully okay with. And I want her to explore herself. I want her to discover like what makes her happy, and I want her to be an educator to like really be exponential with the sexual knowledge she can share. And
Yeah.
for me, like they say, like I think that this comment is maybe a little bit playerish, but I feel like I have a lot of love to give. Like that's how
I
I
love
see
you.
myself. Like
Yeah.
I truly do see that.
Yeah.
I don't just like try to like just like get with a bunch of girls, never call them
Yeah.
again. One night stands aren't my thing. I'd rather have
Yeah.
10 night stands with girls who I like actually have a connection with. And you know, like that I guess like my biggest thing is just like how do I like make sure that
Mm,
I keep like the girls who like, you know, admittedly it's not like professional arrangements or anything
right.
like that. It's like someone who I'm actually like I have to like consider the emotions of. It's somebody who I actually have to caretake to a degree with. You know,
Yeah.
so my biggest thing is like what goes into like my primary relationship box that I only
Mm-hmm.
give my partner, and then what are the things that I would give these other girls.
Yeah.
Because some people say like, oh, well, all you give them is dick, all you give them is sex, and that's all that they
Yeah.
get as a side partner. I don't believe that, you know. I think there are things that they get from me, but that's what I'm trying to like figure out is like what goes in which box, you know.
Yeah. When I was in my poly open relationship days, and I did it for about 10 years, I will say that I was really lucky that a lot of my lovers were just my friends. And
Mm,
so they started off as friends or lovers, and then they were people I had things in common with, so I could hang out with them. But because we're all into philosophy and politics and we talk about these things, it made it so much easier to say, what do you need? Like one time I was sleeping with this girl and like things were going really well. And then she goes, I'm in love with you. And I was like, you're in love with the
Ooh.
sex? And she goes, am I? And I was like, look at our lives. Look at who you're dating. Look at who I'm dating. Do you really think we're going to end up being together? And she
Mm-hmm.
was like, no, okay. And like we're still friends and I love her, but it is one of those things where I think that my way of being allows people to feel safe not being with me versus being with me. I think there's a lot of guilt in
Oh my
society.
God.
Yeah, there's a lot of shame. There's a lot
Yes.
of like pay attention to me instead of I'm going to tell you exactly what I'm able to do for you if you like if the conversation comes up and then we can negotiate it because I don't
Yes.
want people to feel like I'm taking advantage of them, but I also
No.
know where I'm going in my life and not a lot of people can come with me.
Yeah, that's oh my God, you just like blew my mind with that point because that's exactly like how I feel. Like it is a safe option to be someone who maybe you can have like a more casual encounter with. Like one
Yeah.
thing I like talk to the girls who I like have that relationship with is the fact that like, hey, look, I'm not gonna try and like be your boyfriend, you know? Like I am
Yes.
not gonna like try and like take ownership of anything over your life. I'm not gonna tell you like who you can date or not date.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be like it's only me, you know, like I
Yeah.
want this to be an exclusive relationship. Like I'm just like, look, you know, like I am a great option because, you know, I'm charming and funny and good in bed and all that, you know, like I have a lot to offer,
Yeah.
but like at the end of the day, it's like this is an option where you don't have to worry about like me trying to encroach on you. You know, you
Exactly. We're
can
not
just
going to build the
enjoy your
life. Yeah, we're not going to build. I think people forget like it's a lot about building. And the question is, who do I want to build with? So, a lot of my friends and family that I love so much, like I love my siblings, but we
Mhm.
do not build our lives together. We build our. We build our intimate lives separately, but then our overarching like existence, we want to hang out and be together. So in that way, I guess. But just like with siblings or with family, like you don't have to marry everybody. You don't have to literally build a life with everybody. You can
Yes.
negotiate what is like what is appropriate for our relationship. Like some people are different. Now, I've learned being on the internet that some people actually do prioritize their friends and lovers over their partners. And
Yes.
that is very unique. And I am not here to condemn it, but I am gay judging a little bit because I can't believe that you have the love I feel for my partner and you were willing to put anyone above them except I feel like myself and him are the same. Like to
Yeah.
put like his happiness is so important to me. And I told my sister the other day, I love you, girl, but if I had to pick one of you, do you really think I'm gonna
Picking
choose my
favorites.
sister? Like, no, because I'm building a life with him. I'm not building a life with her. I
Yes.
love her. We talk all the time, but she doesn't want me to do that either. Could you imagine if I called my sister and said, you can't go out Tuesday night? You have to
Yeah.
stay in. It's like,
Yeah.
no, no.
You have these relationships with people where you can actually like have like that freedom, and I think that that's important.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this though. This is the
Oh
biggest
God.
problem personally I've dealt with in open relationships. No matter how clearly you communicate things like, hey,
Mm.
I'm in a relationship, this is never going to become anything like more serious, you know, like I will take
Yeah.
your emotions seriously, I will take you as a person seriously, I will
Yes.
not like ghost you, you know, like I can promise these things, but what I
Yeah.
cannot promise is that I have to promise you right now this will not become like a serious relationship or we eventually like pursue a future and stuff like that. No matter
Right.
how clearly you spell this out, you are still oftentimes going to deal with some messy emotions down the road.
Yes. Oh,
It
been there, done
doesn't
that.
matter. Yeah, because at first it sounds like a good thing. Like a lot of people like kind of starting the page like, yeah, you know, that sounds like a sexually exciting thing to explore. I'd like to, you know, maybe explore it with him. He's intriguing.
Yes.
And then before you know it, like, you know, you are actually having a sexual relationship. The emotions do start bubbling up from some of that
Yep.
because you do feel like more connected with people after you have that kind of
Yep.
thing. And then before you know it, like they're like, well, how much of that did he really mean? You know, or
Yeah.
can I change his mind? You know, like these types of things. And that's what I deal with the most is like girls being like, well, you should have known that. I'm like, well, I thought I spelled that out pretty clearly. Like, yeah, but
Yeah.
things have changed, you know, like they have like trouble processing like their own emotions
Yeah.
because it seems so simple at the prospect of it, but then when you're actually like in the midst of it, you're like, huh, I'm actually feeling some stuff. Maybe I need to
Yeah.
like, you know, work that out with him, and then I have to like maybe let them down a little bit because I have more experience with casual sex sometimes than like some of the girls
Yeah.
I've been with, you know.
Yeah. I definitely think, I mean, been there, done that. I've had that happen too. And I think a big part of it is like, even the first guy I ever had sex with, I was like, okay, I would like to negotiate for a 2-week lover-thon. And he was like, what does that mean? I was like, for the next 2 weeks, I would like to have sex with you every day, get to learn my body, learn your body, figure out how I like sex. And he's like, okay, cool. Then after the 2 weeks, I said, thank you so much for the 2 weeks. And he was like, whoa, 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 we're not dating? And I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Ah,
And then that's what happens. And he was mad at me for a while. We worked together. And trust me, the working tension was there. But I kept
Mm,
telling him the same thing I tell everyone now. And I think this is part of me really having a relationship with my core self, which I think is like a mother. It's understanding where people are, meeting them where they're at, and telling them, I'm so glad I had this time with you. But I think it's really important to remember that I do know what I want and need. And I explain that to you because I didn't want you to get hurt. But it's okay that we've now attached feelings. Let's
mhm,
untangle those feelings together to the best of our ability. And then if that person decides to be irrational too many times in a row, I say, thank you for your time.
mhm.
Because, like, there's only so much. So I always want to say cautious. Don't, pick. Okay, hold on. I started open relationships like in my 20s, right? So I had 10 years of my 20s fucking up and getting better and picking bad partners and picking better partners. So there's also this leniency you have to have in yourself on picking bad lovers and then
Mhm.
realizing, how do I pick conscientious humans as I move forward? How do I pick people who genuinely know their limits and what they want? Because people doubt me too. Brittany, you
Yeah,
don't know that about yourself. Brittany, you don't know that about yourself, which is okay. Look, I'm open for change. I'm open to being wrong. But
of
right
course.
now, in this moment, this Brittany is saying no thank you to dating past lovership. And
Mm,
I mean that. But of course, like you said, everything happens. So I would argue that it's our job to engage in behavior in which the consequences are within our allowance for being able to face them. And then if we decide that it's not worth it anymore, engaging differently or with just more restriction. So
yeah.
I just became pickier as I got older, and I said, "Hey, I like you. I am attracted to you. I'm not going to engage. It feels like once I engage with you, the next week of my life is going to be hell."
Yeah. But actually listening to you say that, Brittany, I was thinking like you actually like with this guy you were talking about,
Mm,
you like basically like now he's like in love because it was
yeah.
like such a good week, a loverthon or
Yeah.
whatever. Like, after that kind of thing, if he ended up like thinking like, oh, well, oh, now I have these same feelings of like maybe ownership or something like that,
Yeah.
that could almost turn out like scarier for you than it could
True.
for me. Because like I think that guys can be like more physically aggressive a
Mm,
lot of the time. Like for me, for example, I'll go ahead and confess like the worst thing that's ever happened in our open relationship so far, which is that one time a girl got mad at me like after like our relationship, and she sent our entire sex history to Jen. Like she was like out for revenge and decided she'd like try and like engage in psychological warfare to try and fuck up my
what?
relationship.
Why do
Yeah.
people PC? Okay, so this happens. Like you think you're having a vibe with a person, and then you don't know what ulterior motives they have, especially if you're looking for lovers and not partners. There's
Hmm.
different requirements. So you
Yeah.
might not inquire after, like, hey, what is your like value system? What do you do? It's like you might not need to know that to have sex,
Yeah.
but it's something you find out over time. And that's one of the dilemmas is, look, there's always a risk when you involve yourself with another human, whether it's lovers or
Yes.
anything, right?
Yeah.
So being open and lenient on yourself, or at least forgiving for the wrong choices, but as much as like it's a wrong choice, it's also a tool gathering moment.
Hmm.
So gather that tool, girl, and peace out. Like gather the
Yeah.
tool and peace out.
I mean,
How'd
that
you
was
fix
like
it? By the way, I'm sorry. How'd you fix that problem? Like, what was the solution?
I mean, that was
Live and
like
let live?
probably the darkest time in our relationship,
Uh,
honestly. Like, yeah, like honestly, like just to be perfectly honest, like she spent like about like a few months with like her parents after that. Like,
yeah.
it just ended up like
It must have
really,
been
really,
so hard.
and that was like the darkest period of my life, like like honestly like trying to figure myself out in that time period and really think about like what my relationship meant and like
Yeah.
how I kind of like got to that point where I was like geez, like like sure, like that was fucked up of her to send that kind of stuff, but what mindset was I in where I was like literally like feeling like I was like lonely and I wanted to like engage with like a girl to the point where she could like now use this stuff against me like in the future
Yeah.
because like it was just like
Yeah.
I asked questions of myself, like, am I engaging with these women responsibly? Am I like actually like maybe going too far into the category where they feel like they are starting to fall for me and I'm not identifying the signs? Or I'm just like kind of like maybe engaging too much with like, girls have told me they love me before. And
Yeah, of
like
course.
I
Yeah.
can be like, yeah, like I love you, but like I don't like I'm not in love with you and stuff. You kind of figure out these
Yeah.
types of things.
You
And
know,
one I'm sorry,
please,
one
please.
last thing. This is like another thing that I crossed over with is that I started wondering like eventually like, hey, like I would only call my partner baby or babe or something like
Ah,
that.
yeah.
But when you're in the act, like when you're having sex with somebody,
Yeah.
sometimes that word comes out. You
Yes.
know, like you're just in the heat of passion, you're just like, "Oh, baby, that feels so fucking good," or something, you know, and then you're
Yeah,
like,
of
"Oh,
course.
fuck, like, did I violate my partner's trust by that word slipping out," you know?
Yeah,
These are
yeah.
the boundaries I'm literally trying to figure out, and that was, like, my roughest learning lesson, which eventually led Jen and I right back to each other because, like,
Yeah.
nowadays, like, I know Jen is, like, my person. I know, like, nothing could fuck with us.
Yeah.
But that was the harshest learning lesson I had to learn is, like, how do you set these boundaries up in a way that isn't gonna come back and hurt your partner?
I think a big part of what you guys did in your relationship that I think a lot of people dream of doing and can't do for a lot of reasons is come back together, is
Mm,
get through those hard times. Now, I think when people face those hard times, I do think the relationship should end for like if it ends for a reason, but if it doesn't end, it doesn't end for a reason. So the
yes,
idea is that
yes.
these hard moments, like I already know, especially since I did a courting style dating and my partner and I don't live together yet, I know that one of the things we're going to have to face is living together and
Mm,
cohabitating because even though we've spent a long time like long periods of time together, it felt like a vacation still.
mm,
So when we live together pretty soon here, it's going to be a new challenge of like, oh, is that how we're doing dishes? Is that
yeah.
like how we're going to do that? And so like it's going to be really interesting to see what we end up arguing about or what we end up solving. For me, it's an opportunity to solve together
Yeah, the first time
even
you
when it
find, like, that
hurts.
unflushed toilet or something like that, there are things that are, like, you know, you're just like, "Okay, this person's a human being just like me," you know what I mean? Like, I think that
Yes.
living with somebody is the ultimate test right there,
Yes.
and that's ultimately, like, why I feel like Jen and I, like, the life experience we've accumulated together by this point is something you cannot compare to, like, anybody else. I
Yeah.
look at open relationships like this, like, if I was able to mold my perfect partner in a lab, like, let's say I could just, like, program in all the perfect characteristics, make her the exact kind of woman that I wanted, blah, 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 you know, like, let's say that's even
Yeah.
possible. If I could do that, A, I would still want an open relationship. I've thought about this. I would still
Yeah.
want that. And B, I would still choose Jen over this person. And the
Yeah.
reason why is because the experience we've accumulated together, like just that pair bonding that we've built together is
Yes.
something that like you cannot replicate. You can't
Yes.
just like throw it in a lab or anything. That is like deeply human to me. And that's a
Yeah.
deeply human part of myself that I will never give up now. Like Jen is like
Same.
literally like in my DNA by this point, and I never forget
Yes.
that or take that for granted.
I have so many questions, but I'll do this. So, okay, this is what's so curious because I say the same. My partner and I, we don't believe in like the one, but we do believe there are like very many people who we're compatible with, but we were the first who met each other.
Yes.
And so when now we've built all of these memories, all of these conversations, all of this bonding together, even if we met that person while we're together, we just kind of want to go, bye, other life that we could have had. Like that could have been, but I think there's a problem right now where a lot of people don't actually believe in this idea of building a life in someone and pairing, like bonding with somebody in a way that's so
Yes.
profoundly intimate that
Mhm.
they're always ready to swipe for the next thing. And I think
Yeah.
that's probably good that you're swiping because it means you haven't found it, but also you need to be conscientious of how you're misusing people's emotions while
Mhm.
you're going on that journey of finding that person. And
Yeah.
I don't think people think about it. Like everyone I dated before my partner now, we were always like 30, 40, 60% compatible, but something was always off. The way we treated
Mm.
people or the way we decided to do certain things was like values were off.
Yeah.
Once I met this person and I was like, oh my gosh, you see the world like I see the world? I've never met somebody who feels like they know me so well. Like he understands what my work is or what I'm doing here. Or sometimes he'll read a comment and he'll be like, what? That's not what you're thinking this, right? And I was like, yeah. Like he'll be able to tell me what I'm thinking versus like other people will see me and not know it. And it's like it's very strange, but it's so nice to have that. What do you think is missing from the world? Because I've been trying to figure it out. I think it's mostly real value compatibility that is
Mhm.
making people not understand when you find that real person to throw that away for something new is just so crazy to me. Like, how do you even describe what you've experienced with Genevieve, you know?
I can actually I've thought about that subject
Ooh.
a lot. The thing that I think most people get screwed up by, and maybe I'm just projecting here, but I think what a lot of people get screwed up by is like what your interest in other people even means. So
Oh.
for example, like with me, like when I felt attracted to other girls for the first time in our relationship, I had no compass for it at the time. I was
Mhm.
just like, well, does that mean that Jen is becoming less special in my mind? Does that mean that she's like, not fulfilling something in my heart and psyche? I thought that like, when you feel this way about someone, that's love. And that means, like I had like these
Yeah.
really confused like feelings. And I guess like what I ultimately like realized is like this pair bonding thing that I was talking about, the
Mm.
deep in your DNA kind of feeling
Yeah.
that is almost impossible to replicate. That only
Ugh.
comes with experience. That only comes with like, going through trials and tribulations with someone. But
Mm.
feeling like attraction for somebody else, I don't think is a big deal at all. And as a
Same.
matter of fact, if you are on the same page with your partner and you've talked about this kind of thing, I think that you can healthily engage in attraction to other people. And as
Yeah.
a matter of fact, you can even have like pretty satisfying like friendships, sexual relationships, that kind of thing, as long as you like understand what it is and you're
Yeah.
actually like able to reflect on the fact that like this isn't like energy being pulled away from my main partner. Rather, I look at it more like it's like exponential. It's like something that's like, okay, I
Mm.
loved like this much with Jen, and now
Yeah.
somebody else, like maybe I love like this much more, or I love like this much more. Like it's something that grows. It's not like this is like an entity and I'm taking away from that like every time that I
Mhm.
feel something for someone else. Like
Yeah.
love and attraction and that kind of thing is really something that I feel like it is deeply part of the human experience, and it's something that should be like at least contemplated. Like married people are
Yeah.
going to feel attracted to other people. They need to think about what that means
Absolutely.
and what they're going to do about it. Eventually you're
Yeah.
going to have to like think about like how important that is to like your own human experience. For me, I just try to be as honest as humanly possible with my partners. I try to just like at least like tell them like this is where I'm at, but like I do deeply care about like the people in my life, and these feelings are very important to me. Just understand that there is like this home base that I have, and if it came down to it, I needed to chop everything else away and just have that home base, I would be happy with just that.
Yes.
So everything else is really like kind of extra for me, and it lets me live in more peace when I explore that stuff.
There's something to that. I think people do this thing in their head, and this is why I say you must not have found. I hate to say this way because it sounds like I am.
Lay it
This is
on
my
me.
own personal opinion.
Yeah.
I doubt when people say they have found the thing that I feel like my parents found, that I feel like I found with my partner, the thing that it sounds like you and Jen definitely have, where I'm like, yeah, what if you had to choose? You would choose home base, and everyone's like,
Yes.
I don't want home base to tell me how to live my life, and I was like, oh, then
Mm.
you're not building a life with home base.
Yep.
You're in. It sounds like there is no home base. Like for me, my partner's home, I am home, and together as a team, we are doing this thing together. And then,
Hmm.
of course, I love other people. Of course, I'm attracted to other people. He's attracted. One of the
Yeah.
things that we said in our relationship that's definitely allowed is I have a flirtatious personality. So, like, I'm not going to get in trouble for flirting with people, though I do cut it off. Like, I keep it pretty gay flirty, like very platonic, very like not sexting or anything, just very like, I'm allowed to be like, oh, girl, if I wasn't married, I'm
Is
allowed to
there
make,
a
you
I'm
know,
sorry to interrupt. Is there a
please.
line that like you can cross? Like for example, like if you did sex, do you think you'd have a problem with that?
Yes, I think I'd also have
Okay.
a problem if he was sexting other people. So we have this thing
Sure.
where, because our friends are all pretty queer and flirty as well, and even like the guys in my family are straight, and like even they flirt with their other guy friends. So flirting in that way that's safe and when it's not going to go anywhere, we're very big fans of, because it's just a way to
Sure.
express like fun intimacy. But
Yep.
I think we're very, and look, we're very new into this relationship, but I think in general we're very focused on each other, and we're focused on building intimacy with each other. So right now, to be intimate with somebody else would feel, I think, strange to us. We don't even have plans to be any more intimate with anyone else than we are now. I think
Hmm.
the goal is to, as a team, make sure that we're always on the same page. And if anything changes, please tell me. One thing you said that really stood out to
Yeah.
me is like talking to your partner, telling your partner things, being communicative, being transparent. How transparent would you say you and Jen are as a couple? Because at this point, I think my partner and I basically just say everything. And it's something that I need as a comfort to know that there's nothing that's unsafe. Even if it hurts my feelings, please tell me so we can discuss it. Don't feel like you need to carry this burden alone. Let me help you. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're very or excuse me, very transparent, not transactional.
Yes.
We're
Yeah.
very transparent about this kind of stuff, but like I do think that there is a limit here. Which is not to say like I hide things from her or anything like that, or she hides things from me. Like that's definitely not how we do it. But like let's say like I don't know, like I am engaging with somebody in like a flirtatious, maybe sexting like kind of relationship.
Mhm.
I'd tell her that that's going on. Like,
Sure.
I'd tell her, like, this person talked to me and yeah, we started sexting.
Yeah.
And she'll generally be okay with that because, she knows like that's not that serious to me. But then if it escalates like to the point where I'm actually gonna like meet somebody, which like I said happens pretty rarely, but when it does
Mm.
happen, like we'll actually like have a talk about it, and be
Yeah.
like, so what are your plans for tonight? Are you actually gonna just go like see them? Are you actually like
Mhm.
having any plans for like sexual fun, anything like that? We'll have like a very explicit conversation about that. But
Great.
what we don't do is like, if I have these conversations, I'm not showing her like my phone and letting her
Of
read
course.
through
Yeah.
like the whole like
Mhm.
conversation. Or if a girl sends me nudes, I'm not like, wow, look at this. Like I really
Well,
like take the anonymity of my partners very like seriously,
yeah. Well, I was
but I
gonna say it'd
do.
be kind of weird if somebody sexted you a nude and then you showed somebody without them knowing too. Like that would be
No,
kind of
that's
strange.
super fucked up, but I guess that happens. I guess like some
It
people are
must.
like,
Yeah.
like here's like my whole text history to like my partner and stuff like that. Some people do
Yeah.
do it that way. I don't. I don't like to like I don't feel like anybody really wants to read that at the end of the day. And then
Mhm.
also I feel like that's just like violating the other person's privacy. Even if I'm telling him that I'm having a relationship with somebody, I still feel like it's very important to make sure that person feels safe in what they're telling me.
Totally. Yeah. I definitely will say that I can't imagine it now how I would feel. I will say with my past relationships, I didn't see text history or anything like that. Not that I would have technically minded. I think it just would have felt like, hey, I kind of feel like you guys are doing this thing over here and I don't need to be a part of it because I had a polyamorous relationship where I didn't have to be even friends with my boyfriend's lovers. Like I didn't care as long as they were
Yeah.
cool and everyone got along and there was STI testing and all that stuff was taken care of. No one was getting pregnant.
Yeah.
I didn't mind. I will say man, I think maybe one of the reasons monogamy really works for me in this moment is because I don't even want to read those messages. I just want to be like, there should be no
Yeah.
messages. Like, there
Mhm.
should be only like this conversation here. But then at the same time, I kind of don't mind if he goes through my phone. But I also, like, if it's about my friends, one of the things, okay, I'll give an example.
Sure.
One of the things him and I do is while I have a lot of relationships with callers, with friends, and everything, he knows everything about me. And I tell my friends, like, I might tell him if you tell me something, but if it's something you're just like, this is between us, you need to tell me. So I don't give it to him because it might not be something he ever needs to hear. If my friend's going through something or I have something going on over here, this might not be something he needs to know, right?
Mm.
But he wouldn't consider that keeping a secret because it's not about me, it's about somebody else, which he thinks is just their
Yeah.
privacy. I think some people might even say, well, now you're hiding something from him. It's like, well, it doesn't matter. He doesn't need to know my ex-friend somewhere along the line has this problem going on with her vagina. Like, why does he need to know that? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
not for
There
him.
there are some things that I think like, just because you are honest with your partner doesn't mean that there's just a constant info dump. I think that's also honestly like kind of like selfish to like even like expect that in a way.
Yeah.
Like, like I need to know absolutely everything. I need to know like that one girl who like told you that she was having problems with her vagina,
Yeah, that's like
Like
weird. I want him
yeah,
to know
like
everything about me.
yeah, exactly. And how you
Yeah.
relate to people and like how it affects
Yes.
your life and things like that. I think that's the
Yes.
most important tone to set. The specifics, I mean, like that's not really like super important as long as people
Mm-hmm.
can understand like, like your relationship with somebody and how you're going about it.
Yeah.
I don't think that like just the specific words are important because that really is a violation of somebody's like boundaries in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. I think ultimately the best part of the way I do relationships now versus before is one, we're a team. And two, we are home base, which is
Mm,
very different. I think in my past relationships, I made the mistake of wondering, and this happens in poly relationships. I've seen it online where like the primary will become a secondary or even a third, or
mm,
even, but there's not an option for that in our relationship. There is no one who's going to be first to him, like at all, even my own family. Like I was very much taught, you leave your mom and dad and cling to your husband. So
yep.
I'm into that. Let's go. I don't want my parents in my relationship anyways. God bless them. I want to do this with my partner. And that starts with communication. And I'm really have given him a free safe space to ask anything that's on his mind, to say anything, and then I will give him a transparent answer. And I'll even caveat it sometimes, or he'll caveat it with, okay, are we in a headspace to hear this right now? And I'm like, ooh,
Yeah.
maybe tell me in 2 hours.
Mm,
So even having the freedom of that is kind of beautiful. Now, the one thing we try not to do ever, and we haven't done it yet, and again, we're still pretty new, is not go to bed upset, anxious, desperate, sad, like anything negative. It's like,
mhm.
let's try to tackle this before bed because I'm not going to sleep if we don't.
How do you go about that?
Open communication and safe space. I think first and foremost, I try to, like, let's say we're having a conversation. I might preface it with, okay, this is where I am right now, FYI. So I'm feeling a little on edge. I'm feeling slightly defensive. Do we want to have this conversation emotionally or analytically? Probably analytically, because if I'm feeling defensive,
Yeah.
then you don't want to have it emotionally. So we'll go,
Mhm.
okay, analytically, here's what happened. Here's how I felt about it. Here's where I'm a little in conflict of whether or not I have the feelings that are valid or the feelings that are out of the norm. So it's very like you talk almost like in a very neutral way. So he doesn't feel and I don't feel like we're ever attacking each other, because the last thing I want to do is attack my partner. I did not work
Yes.
this hard to find the love of my life just to attack him.
Now, when you say like not going to bed angry, do you ever feel like that's like a timeline that like might feel a little unfeasible? You know, like there's something that might have happened that's just like we can't possibly resolve this in the 2 hours before bedtime or whatever. You know, like how do you deal
Yeah.
with like actually being able to like work on that timeline consistently before you go to bed?
Well, in my past relationships, I went to bed a lot, angry a lot. I
Yeah.
had like the kind of angry that if he even touched me, I was like, oh,
Right.
like, don't even
Yep.
touch me. And I haven't had that with this partner yet, but we haven't lived together yet. So I'll let y'all know in a year how that
Sure.
update goes. But I think one of the things that him and I, at our core, we genuinely love each other so much. We love each other. Maybe we're a little unorthodox in this way. I think we might love each other to such a degree similar to ourselves that we do tell ourselves, well, if you're me and I'm you in this regard, like in the importance regard, then I need to know what you're thinking and I need to serve your joy so you can have an opportunity to serve mine and we can serve each other in this
Mm.
beautiful exchange of symbiotic joy, which is very much about loving someone, but it's not like you don't hold them accountable. It's not like you don't hold yourself accountable. It's more like there's no maliciousness. I
Yeah.
just want to take it out of my bones if I feel that way. I know I was really stressed in the last month. He came to help me with doctor's appointments and stuff. And he came during a time on the internet when I was feeling like a lot of high stress. And
Sure.
he watched me deal with it. He watched me vent. He watched me pace around my living room, be like, what the fuck is happening? Why is the internet doing this? Like, what the fuck? And he was watching me. And I wanted to make sure that at all those times I wasn't directing it at him. But sometimes, let's say there was overstimulation, it was like, okay, we need a break from even this subject. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like just that very clear communication. I'm really lucky. I ended up with somebody who cares enough to learn how to talk to me.
Oh, okay.
Like he
Yeah.
cares about how he talks to me. He thinks about it. That's very weird. That in my life that has been rare.
Yeah, that's a I mean, they always say like it's not what you say, it's how you say it and things like
Yeah,
that. And
exactly.
I think tone is super important. And what I took out of what you just said though, is that honestly like removing like the malice between like anything you're talking about, just like that negative energy and being able to
Yeah.
separate it from yourself before you talk about anything, I think is like super important because that's like the most common thing I think that happens in fights with couples, right? Is like,
Yeah.
it's like it's not even something that's that serious, but there's like a lot of animosity behind like small
Yes.
things because it's like a
Yes.
symptom of something larger. It's like, how could you have like left the dishes out for the third fucking night? Like that kind of shit. And then like before
Yes.
you know it, it's like, wait a minute, I wasn't mad about the dishes. I was mad about the fact that maybe she's not treating me the way that I was hoping that she'd be treating me right now. I'm feeling
Yes.
stressed about work and I'm maybe taking a little bit of that out on my partner. Like there's
Yeah.
like so many like larger issues that are going on that manifest themselves through the maliciousness of like a specific thing that's not even that important, whether it be
Yeah.
cleaning up, making the bed, like
Totally.
why did you like say it like this way, like I know what you meant when you like had that little tone or something. And so
Yes.
yeah, so like just being able
Yes.
to remove like that darkness from the analysis of like why you're feeling that way, I think is actually a great way to accelerate the timeline and be sure you don't go to bed angry, so to speak.
I think my therapy actually really helped me too, because like dishes in the sink is a great example. I'm chronically ill. I'm really tired. And when he was here visiting, he did all the dishes and cooking and stuff. And there
Mm,
would be days where we would both be really exhausted. And him and I would just say, hey, is it okay if we don't do the dishes today, but we do it tomorrow? Or hey, is it okay? And what we're really doing is we're allowing ourselves to actually give ourselves permission to not do the dishes. So tomorrow we wake up knowing they'll be there and it's not a fight. It's not oh, I can't believe I didn't do this as an adult. Cause I don't know about you, but I feel sometimes I always wonder, like, when am I going to be an adult? When am I going to have a clean
yes.
house? When am I going to do dishes the same time I dirty them? When am I going to? So
It's
that
tough out there.
it's really tough out here. But like that's how we comfort each other. At least it's very comforting to me for him to say, "Can I do dishes tomorrow?" And for me to say, even to my brother who lives with me currently, is like, "Hey, I'm going to do dishes in 2 days, okay? Like, I'm going to get them Monday morning, but like, give me a second. I'm doing this and this. And by the time I finish this, I'm just going to be too tired. And my brother always goes, no big deal, bro. I'll grab it if I can grab it. And it's like
Yes.
preemptively communicating allows for that lack of waking up and being like, oh, the dishes aren't done. It's
Yeah.
like not a surprise. You know what I mean?
Yeah, all of a sudden you like have like you realize that there are larger things that are more important. If this thing right here is like seems like the end of the world, but it's just like we're at a place where it's just not getting done, let it go.
Let
Just
it go.
Yeah.
Let it
you-
go.
Yeah, I was about to sing the song. Jen used to work for Disney
Just
when
like,
we met.
yes.
So
Oh, fun. But yeah, it's
So-
about letting go. It's really about giving it. Like my mom would say, give it to God. I'd say, give it to universe, girl. It's the
Yes.
universe's responsibility for the next 24 hours while we're sleeping. I got to recoup my spoons and then I'll do dishes. It sounds so strange though, because I don't know about you, but I grew up with this narrative of like, how could you not even do the dishes? And then I was like, yes, you're right. Because I dated a partner once who like I would work 12 hours a day and he was in school full time. He was failing every class. But I would set this chicken up as an example. I'd be like, okay, babe, I did the chicken. It's in the pot or the whatever. Put it in the oven for me before I get home from work because I work 12 hours plus 12 hours as a nanny. Then I'd come home and work on YouTube until it was my full-time career. So I was working, okay.
yeah.
And then I'd come home and the chicken was still in the fridge and I didn't have
Uh-oh.
dinner. And I'd be like, what is happening?
What
is
life is
going
falling
on?
apart.
Like, what is this? And after a while of him never putting the chicken in and always playing video games and failing at school, it became sort of a realization of like, you're not team building with me. And two, like, you're not loving me the way you love
Yeah.
yourself. You're loving yourself more. You're loving video games more. And that's really sad because I want a life partner.
Yes.
And that's
Yeah.
what I'm looking for, you know?
I love that actually because that's like a lot of people talk about ambition and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like for example, one thing people say is like, oh, if a guy has a lot of money, girls are gonna like him because he's rich. But I think that actually like what you were talking about right there is just like like that's like the most extreme example of like someone who's like actually like taking like themselves seriously, their life seriously. They're like competent and they're like putting some effort into life.
Yeah.
It's not so much that like people just want like people with money and resources. They
Right.
want like a sign that somebody's like working towards a mission. And if your
Yes.
mission is your relationship and your goals together, like that manifests itself in dishes. That manifests itself in how much
Yes.
you're getting your money up so that you can like build your home and your relationship and things like that.
Yes.
It even manifests like how you're building your health so that you're going to be there
Yes.
tomorrow for your partner, you know?
Oh, we negotiate health all the time. We negotiate
That's
literally.
interesting. I love this.
Yes, we do. Okay, so like he's from Europe and I went to Europe to visit him. Bro, everybody smokes. Like everyone smokes in the mall. People are smoking. And I had to stop smoking in May because my doctor thought I had autoimmune. They just found out it's fibromyalgia instead, which
Yeah.
I think means I can technically smoke pot again. But I was like, wait, and I asked him, I was like, sit down. Are we going to be a smoking couple? Are we going to smoke? Is smoking going to be something we do? Is it okay that it impacts our health? And we're negotiating for how healthy we expect each other to be, for how long we expect to be on the planet. Like we're really,
Yes.
because look, I don't want to limit his one time on earth either. But
Yeah.
at the same time, being in a couple kind of means making the appropriate sacrifices to have a better life together.
Yeah, like think about like working out or eating healthy and stuff
Yeah.
like that. I think that that's like a conversation that actually like couples have is like, like, hey, like, and sometimes people look at it like surface level. It's like, oh, okay, you just want your chick to be like, all like banged up and blah, blah, blah. But I think that it's like, it's not that simple like a lot of times. I think that like health, working out, eating healthy,
Yeah.
like that's just like a sign that like we're going to be healthy for each other. We're going to be there for
Yes.
each other. We have
Yes.
discipline and we're bringing that to the relationship. So when I talk about like working out and health and stuff like that, I'm not just talking about like, hey babe, I want you to get your body a little bit more banging for your boy here.
Of course.
I'm talking, I mean, maybe there's like a little element of
I
that.
mean,
I'm
a
a
little
guy,
bit.
I'm a guy, I'm only human, but I think like the main thrust of what I'm getting at usually like with any partner who I have that conversation with is like, hey, we just need to be healthy and disciplined for each other because we're going to be
Yes.
better for each other as a result of that. Like we are going to be
Yes.
healthy. We're going to make it. We're going to get over that fucking hill together. We're going to
Yes.
actually like have that house at the end of like the Notebook or whatever,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
we're
Oh,
gonna
great
make it to
reference.
that point,
Yes, like that. But that comes back down to that team building. To be honest with you, this is the first time I've had a real desire to be someone's teammate. In the past, I've had my like partners wonder, like, "Hey, are we gonna get married?" And I was like, "Do you think ready to be like a married team, and married meaning just
Mm,
like long-term commitment, but like do you think we're ready to be that couple, ride or die, or do you think that maybe we have things to work on before we can promise that to each other? Because
mm,
for me, when I promise to this person, not only am I going to be with you until the day you die, but that means I'm promising to be with you through every bad moment of your life, every bad
yes.
mistake, every moment of my mental health lapse, every moment of pain, every if I die early, well, now that I don't have autoimmune, I don't think I will, but like it's one of those things where
Right on.
I'm, yeah, no, thank God. But like it's one of those things where the God universe, you know.
Yeah, I know what you meant.
But it's one of those things where I'm really saying, like, I'm asking you to change the life you would have had without me and to like join a life with me and bring your life into my life and vice versa. That's a big ask.
It is. And
It's a
just being
huge
able to
ask.
just knowing that we're going to do the maintenance to get through this journey, I think is very important. I know we're kind of approaching like the 2 hour mark. Are we still good here? Because I actually
Mm,
had one final speed
yes.
run conversation I wanted to
Give
do.
it to me, boo. You're great. I'm
Oh,
loving this combo.
perfect. Me too. Good, good. And one last thing about the open relationship thing I just really
Yeah.
wanted to like mention, then we can put a bow on that conversation. But the idea that I've been realizing also recently is that there's like I think that there's like a lot more like when you're single, you have like this like thing where people, whenever they go out with you in any capacity, they try to figure out like what it means. And so they
Mm.
try to just be like, like, okay, well, for example, there were these two girls who I met. One girl asked me out to lunch. And so
Okay,
I
great.
when I hung out with her, we had lunch and stuff like that. And she brought a friend. And as it turns out,
Mm.
this is the first time I ever met this girl. Her friend ended up giving me a little bit of a vibe, and we ended up connecting like a lot more strongly, like
Oh,
with
okay.
us two. Now,
Yeah.
the original friend who invited me out to lunch was not happy about this at all.
Sure.
She was like, I claimed him. Like, we met like online. I invited him out to dinner, and now you're gonna go and steal this guy from me? How
Yeah.
fucking dare you? She looked at it like a huge slight. And she like literally said to me, what would you think about it if I did that with you with one of your bandmates? Like you invited me to lunch and I ended up like talking to your
Yeah.
bandmate and flirting with him. And I was like, honestly, I would not give a shit. And the
Yeah.
reason why is because if we had just met the first time and then, like you guys are hitting it off, my first thought would be, hey, they have the connection here, not me and her. So
Yeah, yeah,
clearly
yeah.
they're more compatible in this scenario than like you and me would be. So like that's one thing I've been thinking about is like when you're single, there's a lot of like ownership talk that like happens. Like,
Yeah.
what does this mean? Like, he
Dibs.
went out with me. Yeah, dibs, exactly. Whereas like, like if you're kind of like chasing your joy, which is more like what you're
Mm.
talking about, I think that like you're more willing to see these things like happen more organically.
Yeah.
And you're more willing to be like, hey, like I'm feeling the vibe with this person. I'm gonna go explore that. You don't get to like, call ownership on me or like anything that I'm like doing with that. And at the end of the day, like my ultimate responsibility is to my partner. So, like even if you wanted to like kind of like claim dibs, like there's no
Mhm.
point. Like, we're gonna
Mhm.
have to like chase like what feels good to us.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, like, what do you think about that? Like the fact that like, people like always try to, kind of like put expectations on other people when you're dating to begin with?
Can I ask you a question though about how your brain works?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you experience like jealousy or envy or any of those things?
At this point in my life, I'm just gonna be completely honest, no.
Okay, it sounds like you really don't. And I think this is kind of key because as a person, I swear the book I'm
Oh,
going
yeah,
to write
I'm
that's
I'm I'm so sorry. Let me just say this really quickly.
yeah.
I do occasionally with Jen, okay?
Oh, fair.
Yeah,
Okay,
like,
fair.
with Jen, like, one time, like, I saw she was, like, going on, like, some sort of, like, sex work thing where she was, like, negotiating a deal with somebody. There
Yeah,
was one time I got really jealous about that, and
fair.
I don't know what happened. It was just she was, like, out on, like, what seemed like a date with somebody almost, even though it was a negotiation thing, and I felt like that deep, like, "Why is she, like, on a date with someone?" Like,
Yeah. That
yeah,
makes
but
sense to me. That makes
and I
sense to
felt
me.
selfish in that moment because I was like, kind of like, she's so
Mm,
understanding of like, like me and the things that I like to explore. I was not understanding and I wasn't patient with her on that. It only happened
yeah.
once, but I recognized it right away. And I also kind of
Mhm.
recognized, I would only feel that with her because like
Yeah.
I do deeply care about her. Most
Yes.
people though, like I don't feel ownership over people. I don't feel like, like this is
Right.
like something you need to do for me. I have expectations on you. You get with someone else, I'm gonna like feel some type of way. I
Yes.
generally don't feel that.
Yeah, I think sometimes in life what happens is and this came out in poly circles. There used to be this thing where poly people were like, you don't even have to worry about jealousy because we're poly. But like, no, jealousy is a real
Yeah.
human emotion. It comes up and it happens. But I do think in sex positive circles, we've it was just Seattle, but I felt
Mm,
like we had retrained our brains to, instead of thinking, why don't they have a connection with me? It's, oh, who do you have a connection with? Let's get you together. It was like
yes.
compersion, a joy for somebody finding a connection that wasn't with us. Fine. So I think, like, for me, I think rejection is going to be the main thing that I'm going to be known for in my life, because I think rejection is a beautiful consent thing.
Yeah.
It's saying, I can't consent to this relationship, but it doesn't mean I hate you or I don't like you. Rejection could be just about consent. So in that
Mm,
scenario you had, I think you're right that there is a sense of ownership over people before you've even met them. I mean, how many of us girls had celebrity crushes and we're like, Ashton Kutcher is mine, you can't have him. Ashton
yep.
Kutcher don't know who you are, girl. And so it's kind of like this idea that we're fighting the kind of way that I was even raised, which was to be jealous and envious and to be really like, to feed on those feelings because that meant you were really in love. And it's like,
Yes.
I'm going to let it go. And I'm going to say, whatever organic connection I have with anyone, we're going to see what is reasonable to explore and not reasonable to explore. And I
Yes.
think if people reformed how they went on dates or sought out lovers and saw rejection as a cool, thanks for not wasting my time, instead of,
Yes.
oh, there's something wrong with me. It's like, well,
Yes.
maybe, but probably it's not a vibe.
Yes. Oh my God, that's so true. Like my bandmates, God, I don't want to talk shit about my band on stream. I'm not really, but this is just a crazy situation that happened. Our lead singer, like, he dated the same girl as like somebody else in the band, and
Mm.
they like kicked the other guy out of the band over this one. Like he like literally was like, oh, I was like, well, are you still dating this girl? And he's like, no. And I was like, so what's the big deal? And he's like, well, he should have known that I was dating her, and so there's a certain dynamic at play, and he was
Mm.
fucking with that dynamic when he went and got with her. And I was just thinking, like, holy shit, like if I was in the situation where I was dating a girl and then I wasn't, and one of my bandmates ended up getting with her, like that would not even register on my radar.
Yeah,
Like I would
yeah.
just be like, cool, like I'm glad you guys picked up a vibe. Clearly it wasn't meant for me and her, but if you guys end up having a good time, fucking awesome.
Here's a question. Do you have siblings?
Yes.
Okay, then here's a sibling question, because my siblings and I talk about this. If
Mm.
you dated someone and then your sibling dated them, would that be weird?
Actually, I don't think so. No.
Oh, really? Okay, so we have a rule with the siblings, which is like, if I have slept with this person, you cannot, like, we do not want to share intimacy in that way. But I always wonder about this because we're all attracted to different people. I don't think it ever
Can I tell you
overlap.
something about that really quickly?
Tell me.
My sister is big fat gay. She's a
Okay, love that.
lesbian. Yeah,
Love that.
she has a wife out in New York and stuff like that. And there have been times when we were younger where I would like literally get with a girl, and then if I broke up with her like a few months later, my sister would go out on a date with her.
Oh, that's
That's happened
interesting.
that's
Maybe.
happened once or twice.
So do you think like a lot of who you are comes from that environment where that wasn't a thing? Like you didn't have to worry about competition in that way? Because it was more like, if it's over, it's over. Go be with somebody else, even my sister.
Yeah, I mean, this is gonna sound kind of dark, but actually, I think that like where my mindset came with this is getting cheated on like once or twice by girls who I really cared about when I was younger. It was just,
Really?
yeah, I think that it was just like me, like kind of like contextualizing what was happening, like all the expectations I was putting on a relationship, thinking like, like, oh, well, if I just like, I now own this girl, she's gonna be blah, blah, blah. And then like when it didn't work out, like I think at first I processed it like there's something deeply wrong with me. Like I'm fucked up. I can't
Mm.
satisfy these girls. I'm just not enough of a man, something like that. But then I thought about it and I was just like, you know what? Like as fucked up as this is, and I'm not like forgiving cheating, but like that like really was like a sign that it wasn't gonna work.
True.
That was a sign that they like clearly were like on a different page. Maybe they were like thought that they saw something in me, but they really like their soul resonated with something else. That doesn't mean I think you should cheat, but that does
Right.
mean like if that's the outcome, I don't think that people should be too harsh on themselves. I think that they should really like
Okay.
process about like what led to that situation, and like maybe it's just
Yeah.
like that's the path that life had for you, and you wanted to like control that. You wanted to make sure that person like stayed with you. Maybe that's just not the plan the universe had for you. Like that's literally
Yeah.
how one of the big pieces of how I look at it. I guess my sister's another piece of that too, though, because like I said, we've literally dated like some of the same girls before,
That's
and
so
I
funny.
didn't even care.
I think there's, yeah, something to be said about when I look at people, especially my callers, or if somebody comes to me and says, hey, dude, I did something that was pretty shitty and I don't know how I feel about it. I was like, well, you must feel something about it because you're calling me. Let's talk
Mm,
about it. Like, is this like a philosophy issue? They're like, yeah, I feel like I had these values and I didn't stick to them. And I was like, great. See how we can tackle that? Like, we already know what the problem is. You just said it. So, like,
mhm,
let's tackle our values and ask ourselves how we feel about that. Or even if you're going through life and you're just accepting the journey, then it's much easier to accept people's mistakes and accept people's issues. Like I
mhm.
said, I'm very harsh about what I think is right or wrong,
Yeah.
but I'm always willing to meet people where they're at. So you've been cheating. Let's talk about whether or not that's serving our joy. And if it's not, let's talk about what forgiveness looks like. And let's talk about what
Yes.
forgiving ourselves looks like. Because I know people run into those situations, but before they even realize they're in it, all of a sudden, and they're like, what the hell? And so it's one of those things where for some people it is that way. For some people it's malicious and calculated and their thought, it's really thoughtful. But
Yeah.
that's or thoughtful, prepared. Thoughtful sounds nice. You know
Yeah.
what I
And
mean, though. When
I thought you
they
meant
thought
like
about it.
thoughtful, like, you're amorous.
Yeah, yeah. So like it's one of those things where I want to always be open to the fact that people are where they are in their journey. And sometimes it means we're meant to be together. It means that we're meant to be together for a moment and then not in the
Yeah.
next moment. So I hope the moment I have with my partner lasts forever.
Mm,
But I understand that we could die. We could go our separate ways for some reason. There could be, God forbid, abuse or something. Like there
mm.
could be reasons, but I'm really hoping this lasts a moment, like a whole lifetime. You know what I
Yes.
mean?
And then
So
that's
we'll see.
your thing about intentions. I love that too, because like
Mm,
the two girls who I was talking about who ended up like cheating on me when I was much younger. Like
yeah,
one I think was like when I was 19, the other one was when I was like 21, very young guy. So
sure.
I think that it happened for entirely different reasons. Like one of the girls who I was with, she just like happened to find somebody like, who she just had a connection with and she got with him. The other girl, she literally did it out of revenge. Like we got in a
Oh,
big
wow.
fight and she tried to like hurt my feelings by sleeping with
Oh,
somebody else, and it worked. It definitely
yeah.
like it fucked me up a little bit. But I think like in both of those cases, like I was like, all right, first of all, the girl who cheated to do it maliciously, like clearly that was never gonna work. Like, she
Yeah.
has like a
Right.
very like malicious compass about what she'll do if we hit relationship problems, and I
Yes.
don't want to be with somebody like that.
Yes. Yes.
Um, and
Yes.
then
I'm so
the
glad you realized that.
yes, and the first girl, like, I think my lesson was like, like sometimes, like, you think like something is like so like permanent and like in love when you're like 19, and you really like have to understand that life is going to change an awful lot when you're young.
Yes.
And like
Yeah.
sometimes like they might meet someone who they're more compatible with. Think about like girls who like or somebody who like has a partner, they go off to college for that summer and then they meet
Mm-hmm.
like the person they were actually like meant to be with or something.
Yes.
Yeah, like
Yes.
I'm not mad about that situation either. Like I'm just kind of like, well, like that sucks in the moments, but that does like refine your compass as to who you're supposed to be with ultimately. You
Yes.
realize these things. And I look at everything like a learning lesson now. Like even if I'm hurt,
Yes.
even if like somebody does something that I feel like is fucked up or whatever, I try to just process it and be like, okay, well, this just like kind of like is an extra point on my map here, and then I can navigate life more accurately from this point on.
Well, and that's going back like to the levels. That's what the levels was supposed to be. It was supposed to be a tool to help you understand yourself so you could meet people where they are and you could understand them. And then you could understand too what bubble to play into, what path to take. And it's always like a journey. You come across another crossroads and you're like, okay. It's like right now I could tell I'm in a transitionary period. I was like, oh my gosh, I can tell my content's about to change. I can tell my image is about to change. I can tell I'm moving. Euro Brittany's going to be different just because I'm going to be in a different environment. I'm going to have different tools. Like I'm
Yeah.
so excited to be like, oh, what tools am I going to get from this culture, this bubble that's going to inform the information I already know? Like, what is it? What am I going to learn? I'm just so excited about that. But
Hmm.
I will say that journey, like it really is about the journey so much so, right? It's about
Yep.
figuring. That's why when I say when you get to 5, who cares? There's like a whole other journey to get after that, bro. It's called living life. Like it doesn't even
Yes.
like I mean, I think it matters, but I also don't think it matters outside the person who's experiencing the relationship with the levels. That's
Yeah.
why I'm not trying to write a book or be some guru or something. Like I'm not trying to change people's lives like as if this is objective. I'm trying to say, hey dudes, I've noticed in my life, it was pretty hard to meet all these unique people that were confusing me about their intentions and what they wanted. And I didn't know how to pick and choose. And I didn't know how to have a healthy boundary with people. And then I realized, like, okay, in conjunction with working out and being physically healthy, with my mental health, with my financial health, with my spiritual health, there was a relationship I was still missing with myself that needed to be more concretely understood so I could know who to bond with, so I could know who to communicate with, so I could know, okay, when I'm faced with somebody who's different from me, it's not because they're bad and I'm good or I'm bad and they're good. It's just that,
Mm.
oh, we're doing it different. Cool. How are you doing it? Tell me about that.
And ownership was such a big part of that, you know, like that's
Yeah.
kind of like how we got on this conversation is just like the idea of like how do you deal with like kind of like letting go, I guess. And that's
Mhm.
been like hugely influential like in my open relationship anyways, is just like
Yep.
being able to understand like home base versus like the other extras in my life. I may have a big appetite, but as long as I understand like kind of like where I get most of my
Yeah.
meals, I think that that's the most important thing.
Yeah, yeah, I really like your brain. I like how considerate you are of even how you talk about Genevieve. Like you talk about your relationship with so much love that I'm like, ah, that's dope.
Yeah,
That's beautiful.
a lot of people say this about me, but I truly am not like this isn't like a show I put on for the internet. Like
Mm,
honestly, like when people say mean things about Jen, you see like thoughts bubbling up with me. Like, like I feel like
yeah.
as a matter of fact, like Lav Looney, I think that's the only reason why she's like the only person on the internet who I kind of had like a pretty I felt like animosity towards is when she was saying
Yeah.
such negative, nasty stuff about like my girl. And that just like I know Jen is like the most beautiful human being I've ever met in my life, and she
Yeah.
just has like enriched my soul, she's enriched like my purpose, and we have so much like of a life that we've built together. I'm just like, don't you fucking talk about my girl that way, like
Yeah. Yeah, I
I
get
have like
that.
that deep-seated feeling about it. I'm glad you observed that.
Yes, no, I see it so clearly. And I think that's what I'm trying to look for in people. And this year is the year of talking to people who have made it work for them. I really
Mm,
want to send the hope to my audience that look, okay, you can have love that treats you well. Even when it's
yeah.
hard, you can have love that rebuilds. You can have love that is about consent. You can have love that is thoughtful and considerate. You do not have to settle for relationships where, you feel like you're not getting 90% of your needs met. That's not something you have to do. And so we have to talk about those options by showing those options.
Yeah, I'm glad that I can act as a, good example of this
Absolutely.
kind of stuff. Like I said, it is messy.
Absolutely.
It is messy sometimes. I am like,
Life is.
polyamorous. So like there are like elements where people would be like, "Oh, well, how could he possibly have reached that philosophy if
Yeah.
he cares so much about Jen? How could she not satisfy like everything in life that he's would ever be looking for?" Like I get like those types of questions, and to be honest, like I'm just like, you know, if you hear me talk about Jen and you're like confused about how I feel about her, then I don't know what to say. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I am very
Yes.
obviously like I've chosen my person consciously in life. I have chosen my mission. That's what I'm about. I have a big appetite, so there are other elements to like my humanity, but
Of
I
course.
really like that at the end of the day is the most important thing. I think like love is not like always what you were taught it was. Love
Yeah.
is not always like perfectly like contained in all these like neat little ways, but if you can like make your purpose like to be by your person and
Yeah.
understand like you have a conscious decision on who you spend your life with, as long as you like have a good compass for choosing the right person and making good decisions every day to make that relationship stronger, I think that's the most important thing.
I agree wholeheartedly. I just, yeah, this is definitely the message I want to send out to the world this year because there's so much joy to be had. And I think we're all getting kind of distracted in the negativity that we
Mm,
forget that, hey, this is a choice too. Like being this negative is a part
yep.
of that choice. And so, like, let's make less negative choices this year, guys. I really appreciate you being here so much. And I hope we get to talk more than, more, as often as it can happen, honestly, because
Yeah.
what a great vibe.
Yeah, absolutely. I love talking to you, Brittany. One thing I got to say is your Discord. One thing I love about it is the fact that since it's Patreon only, it's such a
Yes.
tight-knit community where we all
Yes.
actually talk together and stuff like that.
Yes.
And like you said, you wanted to find your people. Like I said, Brittany, this was a conscious decision for me to seek you out because I knew
Thank
we were
you.
going to have like a vibey conversation, and I knew
Yeah,
that we were going to like see eye to eye and maybe learn from each other about some things. So this is a really
absolutely.
cool opportunity. You ever want to chat about anything else? I'm more than down for it.
Yes. Okay, awesome. Please have a great day and tell Jen I said hi and give her a big fat hug from me.
I'll give her a big fat kiss on the cheek as well.
Thank you. Okay, talk to you soon.
Bye, Brittany.
Bye. Okay, great convo. Give me just a sec to set up, guys. Actually, let's take a 2-second pee break, please. I need to tinkle. I'll be right back, huh? I'll be Testing audio, testing. Hello, everyone. Okay, hold on. Let me get my computer back on. Activate. Okay. Okay, hold on. I'm about to be. Hello. Zoom it out just a little bit here. Hi, everyone. Oh, man. Shaking things. Okay. Hi. Hello. How's everyone doing? Oh, hello. Okay, I am a little low on spoons because I'm in the middle of moving, but I'm willing to stick around for a bit. I won't say how long because who knows, but why don't we stick around for a little bit? And we can have a discussion if you guys would like. If I see no questions or anything, then we can just call it a day. This is my last live show though. For all of May, I will not be live streaming. So all of May, I will not be live streaming. I will be putting out individual videos instead. So you'll still get the podcast. And on Mondays, instead of the live stream, I am putting out individual videos. So you guys have something to watch. And I pre-recorded quite a lot. And I also have a bunch of more ideas to record. So there might even be videos on Fridays, but no guarantee. I just want to give you guys content to watch. I will still be active on Discord via my phone. And if you have a pre or a call booked with me through Patreon, I'm prioritizing my patrons in May. If you have a booked call through Patreon, I'm taking new callers through Patreon and I am prioritizing them in May. I'm taking calls from the 1st to the 13th of May. And then I have to take off to move. And I'll be back to work on June 5th. So let's get out our calendars. Where is my calendar? June 5th. June 5th is literally a Monday, and I will be back 2 live shows then, but it will be early morning, so it won't be this time. I actually have the new times on Patreon. Let's go to in Discord. Let's go to my Discord. Let's go to my pinned comments and hope I put my freaking calendar in here. I did not. Oh, I'm so bad at my job. Okay. Let's do this. I'm going to post my... Okay, let me see. Okay, so hold on. Yeah, okay, so I posted the schedule on the Discord, but I'm just going to pin it for myself. I know people are probably watching me do this. Okay, so I'm going to be live on Monday starting June 5th, 2023 at Central Eastern Time. No, Central European Time, 3 p.m., Eastern 9 a.m., and Pacific 6 a.m. So it's going to be pretty early. It's usually I start at 11 Pacific, but I'm going to be starting at 6. So that's pretty early, but that is the time that I'll be streaming. And then of course I'll be streaming with collaborations and everything else based off other people's schedules. But I'm pretty excited. Okay, so what are we talking about, guys? I don't know, Metallica, you really give me a lot of anxiety and you make me feel afraid. Like, genuinely, I can't tell if you're unhinged or who you are. I have no idea who you are, but you seem a little obsessed with me. You come on my channel, you come on my live streams, and it's so strange. And I don't know what you want, but I need to like just let you know that you're probably going to get blocked eventually if you keep giving me anxiety. Like, I can handle criticism, but I can't handle people like having that like weird, creepy parasocial thing going on. And I'm just going to tell you right now for everyone listening, I don't mind criticizing, like criticism posts, but people who are trying to emotionally manipulate or cause harm or tell me to eat a gun, like those people are getting blocked, right? Because it just feels very manipulative. I've had Metallica blocked for a while now, so I have no idea what's going on. So you can't see his comments in chat. I don't know what he's talking about. But it is one of those things where, look, as a YouTuber, I don't like blocking people's comments. It frustrates me, but at the same time, I think certain content creator or content usernames do spend their time trying to torture people, and Metallica feels like one of those people to me. So if you're like him or them or her, I don't know, like we might have to block that person. They've always had a problem in my comment section. They seem to bring down the mood. And so it's kind of one of those things where I really want people here who are genuinely trying to have conversation, and I don't feel that vibe from that person. So yeah, if I start to feel that way for much more than the way I feel now, then I'll probably just block you. And I'm just going to tell you why, because I feel like you should know that. Like, you give me anxiety in a very, like, I feel danger when I read your messages, because you have a really weird parasocial relationship thing going on that I think as a content creator, you kind of suss them out on occasion. I could be wrong, but at the same time, yeah, better to block you, I think. Yeah, so like you say, I know a secret that I've known for 2 months now in regards to Brittany, and she knows that I have a secret, but I don't even know who you are. Like, are you my stalker? Because you sound like my stalker, which would make sense because she still tries to bother me. So maybe that's who you are. But like, girl, I wish you the best. Get help. You know what I mean? Is that who you are? You're giving me my stalker vibes. So, and people never give me that vibe. So again, this is like yeah, super uncomfortable, my bro. So if you really care about my safety and consent, you would learn to talk to people better and you can stay. If you can't learn to have the conversation without being creepy, like, I know something about Brittany. It's like, if you know something, then I probably meant for you to know it because it's probably on the internet. You know what I mean? If you don't, you know what I mean? If you know something, it's probably on the internet. If you are my stalker and you found something out about me, well, then you're just gonna what? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not sure where you're coming from, but it sounds like pretty scary. So don't do it anymore. Kai says, I think it's a DGGer that came after the bridge burn. That's when I first saw them. Yeah, that's when I first saw them too. But they're being very strange. I didn't say, Metallica, that you told me to eat a gun. Other people, I don't know if, unless you were that person, I don't know. I don't know who that was. It was just it was a person. So again, you're being super inappropriate right now. How do you know but do you know the Metallica guy? Wait, are you making a joke about do you know the gingerbread man? Because that's what it sounded like in my head. Yeah. So I don't know if you are, but if I see any more inappropriate comments, I'm just going to block you. But I like to warn people first before I block them because I think people can change. So if you would like to change, yeah. Is Metallica claiming they know me in real life? I highly doubt it. Or do they know me from the internet? Probably the internet, huh? Okay, actually, let me get you. So Steve okay, we just had our collab. That's his website if you guys want to check him out. Da, 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 da. And this one's for you. You can tell everybody. They claim that you know a friend of theirs. Doubt it. My friends are really tight knit. So genuinely, like, he could know somebody I know, but that's the problem, is like, I doubt it. And if he does, like, it's not a real friend. You know what I mean? Like, oh, Metallica's a she. Yeah, I don't know them, but a lot of people say that. Like, a lot of people will become friends with my stalker and then be like, oh, I'm friends with somebody you know. I don't know my stalker. She was a stalker. Like, I don't know her. You know what I mean? I thought I knew her, but she ended up being a stalker. So I don't know that. I don't think this is true. Like, it could be one of my cousins, maybe. Like, but all my cousins would call me. So I just don't believe that. They claimed they were on live and gave someone their word. Oh my goodness. Their word? They're saying you told on a cheater and that ruined the cheater's life. There you go. Saved you some time scrolling through comments. They are saying you told on a cheater and that ruined the cheater's life. Nah, they can't. This isn't a real story. I've only told on one cheater my whole life. And their life is kind of fine. I mean, it was a mess, but it's always been a mess. So yeah, no. Actually, no, I didn't even tell on that person. Technically, I was the second person to tell. Yeah, I don't have a story like that. I've never told on a cheater. Unless, yeah, I can't think of anyone. Who would that have been? Yeah, I don't think I have that story in my story. Sorry, bros. Yeah, I don't know that story. Yeah, bummer. Anyways, anything else you guys want to talk about? Anything else we should go over? Let me go to my Discord chat as well. I think my brothers are still here, but getting ready to leave. Kai says they're repeating a story Brittany told about telling someone that their partner cheated. I remember she said something like that and they were stuck on it all stream. Oh, okay. Are they saying are they saying that it happened to their friend, and because it happened to their friend, they think me telling people that they cheated is going to hurt them the way it hurt their friend? Is that what it is? Like, that's, I get it. That's like trauma projection, so I get it. That's normal. I'm used to people doing that to me. So, you know, I get that. I get that desire to like say like, oh, well, Brittany did this thing that ruined someone, you know, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, even the people in my life who have cheated, I was always like the second person to be like, "Hey, did you know they cheated?" So like I don't even think I've ever personally been the first person. Yeah, I've never been the first person yet to tell someone that they've been cheated on or something. So yeah, interesting. Kai says no, they were just pissed that you stepped over the boundary by snitching on a cheater. I never snitched on a cheater, but I would, bitch. I would. In the right circumstance. Nero says I did that to their friend, but apparently they're just being weird. Yeah, I have no idea who they are. Who are you friends with, my homie? Who? Because absolutely not. I own everything I do, girl. She said that you called the cheater's partner at work. Girl, what is this? This is a fan fiction, my friends. I never called nobody. Well, I'm trying to think. Is there something I've done that would count as this story? No. I don't think so. That's a very interesting, fun story you're telling, though. I think we can move on as well. Okay, so what else is on your minds today? Is there anything we should talk about? Ooh, Game says, what do you do when you want a relationship, but you feel like you really connect to someone in that way? Honestly, can I be real about my whole theory on love in case you guys haven't heard about this? Like, I really think because we're evolved animals on a planet, and though I believe our consciousnesses evolve to allow connectivity and opportunity for longevity, they're not guaranteed, right? Because we have to meet those people. Like my partner lives an ocean away. I never would have met him if I dated the traditional way. I only would have met him if I was open to talking to people on the internet. You know what I mean? Shadow Bee. And apparently it happened less than a year ago. Girl, in this last year, I've been too busy to get into people's business. But yeah, I think like love is this amazing thing that happens in different ways with different people. I think to find romantic love is really rare, like real love. I think a lot of people settle in relationships because they feel a way of love. But again, I'm not trying to discount everyone's relationships. I'm trying to say that it depends on what you're looking for. Are you looking for something that's comfortable? Something that's has longevity, something that has a level of intimacy that's like, wow, this is what that soulmate is, that thing people talk about. When I was younger, my parents would describe this phenomenon of finding a soulmate. And they would also, because they're Catholic, they would say God made many soulmates for us. But in this lifetime, the soulmate I met was your father. And then my dad would say the soulmate I met was your mother. And then I would be like, oh, that's interesting. So you could have met other soulmates. And even my farm brother with his wife says the same thing. Yes, romantically, it's hard to say that you're not my soulmate because that sounds really nice to hear. But realistically, God created many people that would have been your soulmate, but those people are still less than the population of people you could date. So that is how I see the life. That is how I see love. I think the love I feel for my partner is because he is literally like, like if we don't work out, I would be so shook and that would make a really great podcast. But I would just be so floored because I know what it's like not to have it. And now that I have it, I'm like, oh, thank God. Because when I was dating in my long-term relationships and I was like, I love this person. Why don't they feel the way my parents said it would feel? Why aren't they acting in the way my parents said they would act? And it was because they weren't my person. They were not my person. So when I found this person, one of the many soulmates I could have had, I'm like, oh my God. Oh, thank God. Thank God. You know what I mean? Like, oh my gosh, because it's so different. I can't even explain it to you. It'd be so hard to explain how he's different than everybody else I've dated. But I only know it's true because I've dated other people who were all of them felt the same. All of them, I was like, no, this isn't it. This isn't it. This isn't it. But maybe if I work on it, maybe if I go to therapy, maybe if I change this. And I had to change so much of myself just to make us sort of work. That being with this person that I am with now, I mean, I can just be myself. I can just be the human I want to be. I can have the experiences I want to have. I can talk the way I talk, and he translates it. He understands. He I don't know how to explain it. I mean, even when he like reads the comments or reads things and he knows I get upset when I'm like, can I communicate this better? But I don't want to have to work so hard. And why do I have to work so hard to communicate better? And like, at the same time, why can't I just talk? You get me. Why can't I just talk? And he was like, well, yeah, but I kind of get you because I understand you. The world doesn't understand me enough to just be myself, except when I'm with him. Even my family, my friends, my siblings, like I love them all so much. But yeah, there's a confusion about who I am sometimes. And so to be with somebody who isn't confused by me, who can say what I mean back to me, that is amazing. Like, guys, you ever have a conversation with someone and they're like, yeah, I understand you. And I'm like, say it back to me though. And they can't. It's not the same thing of what I'm talking about. He does that. Like he understands. He's not perfect and I'm not perfect, but because we're so similar, it just means we don't have to fight as many battles. And I waited 33 years to meet this person and a lot of failed relationships. So I'm really lucky. And I'm sick and I have all this baggage and I'm a YouTuber and he just is just compatible. So again, my parents give me hope. My parents gave me hope because every time I was with somebody, I was like, this isn't what my parents have. And again, I don't want the religious part of my parents' relationship. I want the consistency, the not cheating, the not yelling, the not hitting. I want the lack of abuse, please. I want the healthy part of my parents' relationship because my parents would never do that to each other. They would never mistreat each other the way I have been mistreated in relationships or the way I've even mistreated people in relationships. When I found myself in a toxic spiral where I was yelling at my partner and we were breaking up to get back together again, I had to ask myself, what had I done to become a person so fucking disgusting? And then I had to become and go back to my roots of being a person that wasn't in that toxic bubble. But the toxic bubble sucks you in and all of a sudden you're doing it because like the thrill is there, the chemistry is there, but it's not good. It's not good. You know? Selena says, have you always been transparent with what you think of your siblings' choices? I'm questioning my little sister's choice of partner, but don't know how to be blunt with her. Okay, keep in mind, my family has a problem with boundaries. So I would argue that because we grew up in a household without them, which was not good in some ways, obviously, super inappropriate, it made it so we were always in each other's business. And we actually had to learn how to be less, I think, in each other's business, sort of. But we're very opinionated. I like that my siblings are opinionated. I like that my family is opinionated. I don't always agree with the opinions, but I do like that they'll just tell me. But that's because of how we were raised. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we just talk about it. But that's, again, I was really lucky that was my environment. So it's not weird that my siblings were all like, hey, what are you doing with this guy? Can we meet him? Are you sure? Like, they question things all the time. But the point is that we allowed that environment to exist in the first place. So I think not everybody has that relationship with their siblings. I don't know. Some people talk to their siblings like they're strangers. Like if I had a problem with my brothers, I would like walk into their room and be like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And they'd be like, "Oh," but like other people would be like, "Hey, so can I talk to you about something important?" Like some people are very like strangers, like their siblings are their strangers almost. So Selena, I think the question you need to ask yourself is, do you have the relationship with your sister that allows you to be appropriately criticizing her relationship? Because I'll tell you this, with some of my friends, I don't often criticize their relationships to their face unless they ask me or unless I can react in the moment. Because sometimes my friends will be like, "Oh, I just did this." And I'm like, "Bro, what are you doing?" But at the same time, like, you're an adult, you do you. If you want to fuck over someone's life, that's on you. Would I warn that person? Probably. But do you have the relationship with your sister that allows you to talk to her about it? Chaos Zen, stop it right now. I was trying to read your name like 100 times. I was like, what is this name? What is it? Is it I was looking at Chaos Zen. That's cute. How long did you wait before meeting your long distance partner in real life? And how long would you recommend people wait? Okay, so I don't know about people, but I was doing a courting style dating, which meant 1 to 3 dates or 1 to 3 months of dating before deciding to live and let live or to basically pursue a long-term relationship. So we didn't want to waste anyone's time. So, is that right? October and then December and then yeah, I think that's right. I think so. We talked from June, July, August, September, October. So we met up in October. We started talking in June. We went through all of the hardcore dating, asking questions, making sure, talking to our families, talking to our friends, confirming that we felt this was reasonable and worth the investment of seeing each other. Then we decided to see each other for preliminary like engagement. So ultimately, look, meeting someone in a foreign fucking country or vice versa is very intimidating. You're worried about safety. You're worried about, oh my gosh, is this person like a stalker? Like, is this person gonna treat me safely? Or I guess on his end, is this YouTuber going to murder me and make a video out of it? I guess I don't know. But we're adults and we live on our own and we got our families involved. And then we just had a leap of faith after everything. We told people it was happening. We exchanged information. So God forbid if anything happened, our family and friends would know exactly where we were at. He was coming to America to meet my siblings. I was going to Europe to meet his family and friends. So we got people involved. So the safety issues kind of went away because at that point, well, now there's witnesses, So not that we thought we were going to be crazy, but you never know. And I definitely wanted him to be safe and I wanted me to be safe. So I don't think it's a time. You asked, how long do you recommend people wait? I don't think it's a matter of time. I think it's a matter of a moment. I don't think it's you should date a year before you get married. Who cares? Is it appropriate? My brother got engaged and married within 6 months. My parents got engaged and married within 6 months. For some people, that's crazy because you're just casually dating, meeting at a bar and falling in love. But we're not doing that. We were doing a courting style dating with lots of questions, lots of interrogation, lots of getting to know each other, lots of knowing his family. So again, the context is more important than the time, in my opinion. Maddox says, my parents do make me believe in soulmates, but I do agree on there being multiple soulmates. This is a very great connection and equilibrium of two individuals. Yes. It's so nice when you can see love mimicked in your parents if you're lucky enough. Yaya says, soulmates aren't always romantic too. I consider my son one of my soulmates. I feel like I was meant to be his mom. Interesting. I've never heard of it with parents and kids, but I will say I think my inner circle, like my friends are my platonic soulmates. Like I think my inner circle, because I only have 3 people who are not related to me in my inner circle. I think they're definitely like soulmates I was meant to meet, but be platonic with, not romantic at all. So I feel pretty lucky in that regard. Yeah, I do believe in that as well. Whew. Okay. Whew. Kenny says, Brittany, I love the way you talk about your love. I can't wait to experience that feeling. Bro, can I tell you? I knew it was possible, and I didn't know when I was going to get to experience it, because I wondered why my last relationships, like, I thought I was in love, and I must have been in some way, but it's not the same. Like, I think I was really in love with a lot of people's potential growing up. And this is a person that I've met that I just love them for who they are right now. They're just so wonderful. Yeah. Yeah, it's just so different this time around. It's so different. Reading comments. Girl, hi, says, hey girl, I'm on a lunch break. Whoop, whoop. Wanted to ask you, what type of work does your fiance do? You know what? I'm not going to tell you much about him because he is not the content creator, and I don't want him to feel like he won't get to tell his own story if he ever does. So if he decides to ever be on a podcast or something, I want him to tell you guys that versus me. So for now, great question. I am going to keep that private, but great question. Yeah. I just want him to represent himself. I know I talk about him a lot, but I really hope that he gets to, not that he ever has to. He never has to come on the internet if he doesn't want to, right? Like, I'm the fucking stupid YouTuber. I'm the dumbass who's on the internet. But yeah, he's a real person. I want his life to be private unless he wants to share. In fact, says, I feel like your perspective and theory on love has given me the best fundamentals to develop my own theory of what I want from a partner. Let's go. That's what I want. Guys, please, I swear to God, I do not want to be your leader. I don't want to be like the end all be all of information when I know how dumb I am. I just want to say that I really feel like I figured out this thing here. And if you guys feel like it benefits you, please utilize it in your life. But I'm not the end all be all of information. I wasn't even that for myself, right? I had to rely on thousands of books and hundreds of videos and people and thousands of videos, people and other ideas. Like, people have the answers as a collective, but as individuals, we have parts of answers. Well, I guess as collectives, we have parts of answers too. But I mean, like, as a whole human species, the answers are here. We just we have to find them. And I think they will look different for everybody. Wait, Gonzalo says, have you ever felt that even though you are compatible on paper, after talking about everything, time with someone is not something you can rush? Like, I feel like time is not replaceable for information. Let me make sure you didn't have a follow-up to that. Yes, I think that's true, that the lived experience you have with someone is more profound than the online relationship you can have with someone. I have a lot of online friends I love so much, and they're really great relationships, but I can't wait till we can meet, because I feel like when we meet, it's going to become even more real. Like, you're almost not even a person until you've spent enough time with somebody, because when you haven't spent enough time with someone, you're filling in all that information for you, like, or for them, and it could be wrong. And I think actions speak a lot louder than words, so I expect action to follow. I mean, to be honest with you, one of the tests that my partner and I had for one another was whether or not we were going to come visit each other. That was a test, right? Like, we knew that if neither of us made the effort to see each other, we would have broken up. Because a part of wanting to be married is wanting to make an effort, like wanting to put in that effort, wanting to make or put in that effort. So wait, I lost the question. Oh, so I do think time is something you can't rush, but time is spent differently in different ways. Like, my partner and I, especially on our first date as an example, we spent that 8-hour first date asking each other all the questions that normally end a first date. You feel me? And then it didn't end the date. So that's kind of, you know what I'm saying? So it allowed us to have the at least space to move on to the next stage. And the next stage was spending time with each other. So, and with my siblings. So he's gotten to spend lots of time with my siblings, playing video games, hanging out, not with all of my siblings yet, but most of them. So that's really exciting. And that allowed them to have a real idea of him. He became a real person, right? So I would say that time allows things to become real. and time spent together in physical capacity allows you to really feel, smell, get the feeling of a person. Like, you know what I'm saying? Meeting people in person really can change your perspective on them because you get to see them in a private space, which means they tell you a lot more about themselves than they could ever tell you in a message or anything else. So I don't think him and I would ever have gotten married or engaged without meeting. Do you know what I'm saying? It would have always been, hey, we really like each other on paper. We have to meet. That's why we met. And we met each other's families. It was really important that I met his parents. It was really important that he met my siblings. Much more than meeting my parents, he needed to meet my siblings because I have a very different relationship with my siblings than I do my parents. And he will have a very specific relationship with my siblings versus my parents. Does that make sense? Yaya says, I have 21 siblings, but they're all half siblings. Only 3 of us don't have any full blood siblings. Only 3 of us don't have any full blood siblings. And it makes me feel like an outsider. Most of my other siblings seem to have a closer relationship. That's interesting. That must be really hard because I grew up, with all of my siblings in the same household, even technically my 2 half brothers, which are just like my brothers. We don't really because being a half sibling didn't matter. Like it was about how much time we spent together. So that's hard. If you haven't spent a lot of time with those people, it's hard not to feel, I think, like an outsider, but that must be tough. I don't know why you brought that up, girly. I'm so sorry if you're talking to somebody else, but I just thought that was an interesting comment. Ooh, girl. Just crack my neck. Oop, I rolled the chat and I lost it. Oh my gosh, Jester, thank you. Not only have you given me good tools to create my own value system, but you've also showed me the importance of having values and to live and stand by them to lead a joyful life. Yay! Honestly, okay, maybe that is the one thing that I wish people would do more. Oh, hi, bug. Is maybe that is the one thing I wish I could give people, maybe. Is form your value system. Do it now. Form it, know yourself, have it be honest, have it reflect the moment and be open to changing it in the future, but be open to living by something for something. When temptation comes, when life gets hard, are you gonna fall prey to evil, whatever that means, badness, whatever that means? Or are you going to say, at least I died by my values? And if I understand in a survival situation, I'm going to lie my ass off, right? But truly, there are circumstances I could imagine where I would just end up dying, right? Nah, I'm going to die. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to betray my values to just live another day. What is so valuable about living that you're willing to do something that you think is disgusting, right? Yeah. Gonzalo says, I kind of get your point, but it feels weird to me, obviously biased. I can't imagine myself marrying someone before, let's say, 5 years. I feel like people change a lot and only time can tell. I don't think people change a lot at a certain point. I don't. Most people never change. Psychology studies show us most people do not change. Most people shift. There's a difference. Most people, unless they're introspective, unless there's a reason to change, don't. We do not break habits. What we do is we shift, which is not the same thing. If you have core values, then you're most likely not going to change from that perspective, right? You're going to maybe shift a little bit, but it's not the same. If you have a habit you formed, you're probably not going to change the habit. You're going to shift the habit, right? So I don't have the lived experience, nor have I read any literature that shows people change a lot. I've only read literature and seen studies that say people shift a lot, which maybe is my terminology. Yes, we change, but we don't change the foundation. If I'm going to be honest with you, I feel like in many ways, the more I healed, the more I went back to my foundation rather than became a new person. Yes, I changed radically, but I never changed my foundation. I am most of the time a warm person. I'm most of the time very strong on values. I think you can change a lot, but as you get older, I do think it stops. So for me at 30, 33, like I'm not going to change much from this person. I'm only going to shift. I might change what it looks like from the outside, but on the inside, I don't think there's going to be a lot of shift. You know what I mean? Like my farm brother who's religious, he's been the same person most of his life. He had one moment where he doubted God, so he changed, but it was a temporary moment because he came back from God. He shifts around his religion, but he always maintains the same path. Him and his wife are on the same path because they won't change. They got married at 6 months because they bonded on values. They have a shared reality and they educate the same way. They consume the same media. They are together. You know what I'm saying? They're not on different paths. They're on the same path. They're not going to change. You know what I mean? Girl says many psychologists would say that men don't start to fully mature until their 30s. That's cultural and that's sociology, right? Now, I'm not I'm not in this field. I'm just a person on the internet. But I always understood that as sociology. The culture shifts and you mature and then you change. But I don't know if it's scientific, literally, to say that there's data to show that that at 30s men mature because of anything other than culture and time, right? So I do think in your 30s, you do become more solidified because you've had the time to build on that foundation. But I don't think I don't know. I could be wrong. Maybe I'll have Dr. Kirk Honda on again because I love him. Maybe I'll have him on again to talk about that. Is there science behind this? I'm not a scientist, but he is. Is there science behind this? Because I would like to know if that's true. Now, I always say wait until you're in your 30s for a lot of things. But usually if you're growing on a foundation of values, you can grow together. You know what I mean? You can grow together in that regard. So my farm brother and his wife will definitely change as people, like personalities, not personalities, that's the wrong word. Temperaments, maybe they'll change in small ways, but they'll never not be Catholic. That would be weird. Like they're not all of a sudden going to stop being Catholic. Like that's not what happens. Do you know what I mean? That's a different kind of change. So actually, maybe we should have defined change before I went on my fucking rant. What is the change we're talking about? Because I might change how I dress, but I'm not going to change my stance on cheating. You know, that's never changed. Brittany from day one has had the same stance on cheating. That has never changed. So if you're thinking, I'm going to date Brittany and one day she won't care about cheating as much, girl, that ain't the kind of change. You know what I'm saying? Selena, oh my God, you're so sweet. The tool you gave me was language to organize the chaos in my brain. Yes. Dude, when you have a chaotic brain, you need that language, bros. Oh, yeah. Jester says, what do you think about psychology as a science when it comes to generalizations? Again, I think generalizing the human experience is a mistake. Generalizing what could happen during a human experience is reasonable, but that's not the same. It's like people who have a really bad experience with a man once, and they're like, I'm going to generalize for the rest of my life that men suck. It's like, okay, sure. That's one way to do it. But I think negative generalizations, or hell, even positive ones, don't allow us the ability to actually face whatever is true. It only allows us to live off that generalization. So if somebody said, I'm never dating a girl with borderline because they've hurt me, yeah, that's true. People with undiagnosed mental illness will probably unintentionally or intentionally hurt you. So it makes sense. But do you think out of 3 million people, in the States, or however many people have borderline, that every single one of them will hurt you? That feels paranoid to me. But that paranoia is rooted in some hurt, which is what I would call trauma. And then trauma infers opinions, and then you make mistakes by generalizing people negatively. And so my concern is that I'm okay generalizing in a safe environment where we're not actually going to write people off because we're generalizing, right? I feel very unsafe around people who generalize because usually I'm the group of people that are generalized badly. Middle Eastern people generalized badly, women generalized badly, and mentally ill women generalized very badly. So I am not in a position where my categorization of human is generalized in a positive way. Now, maybe there's a new word we can use. I've been really working on this. Maybe it's the word I'm using, generalize, judge. But stereotyping, like I believe in stereotypes because I am a stereotype, but I'm not only a stereotype. I'm just a category of person. You know what I mean? So again, I'm really concerned and I feel very unsafe in circles that are trying to make a point by generalizing. Well, all people are like this, so this is how we have to. I don't want to live in a world where we say because X person tends to be like this, all people with this needs to be treated like this. I don't want to live in that world and I don't want to engage in that behavior. Okay, hold on. Nero, great question. I have a strong need to know on the first date already if they want it to be serious or just mess around. But every time I ask people that, I seem to suffocate them. Is it necessary to play the game then? Okay, everyone is playing a game, but we're all playing different games. Some people are playing the game of life in general. Some people are playing the game of being a good teacher. Some people, and I don't mean game in a bad way. I mean game as quite literally like there's a goal to the end of success, right? So I'm playing the game of getting married now. So asking about your finances on the first date makes sense. Asking about what you do and what your relationship is with X, Y, and Z is important. But if I'm playing the dating game, it depends on your personality and the bubble you're in, the culture you're in. Again, some people recommend you date a year or two before you get married. Cool, that makes a lot of sense to me in your 20s. But in your 30s, 40s, and 50s, where you've had so much life to live, now unless you don't live a life, then you might need to do that as well. Everyone can take it at the pace they need. Everyone can play the game they want. So Nero, the question you have to ask yourself is, which game do you want to play? If you're playing the marriage game, then stress those people out and get them the fuck off that first date. I dated a guy one date because I only went on first dates in 2020, basically. And this guy was like, hey, your way of dating is super intimidating. And I was like, great. And he was like, well, but if you talk to me different, it would maybe be better. And I was like, yeah, but if I talk to you different, then I'm changing who I am. And now I'm attracting the wrong partner because now I've played a game I'm not going to play in our marriage. Like my partner, it was not bad for us not to have made it. It would have been just as much of a blessing for him to break up with me than to stay with me as it was that he stayed with me. Because ultimately, we're dating to see if we should break up. So we don't want to date 2 years. What a waste of fucking life and money and resources. Especially flying back and forth? No. But I understand if you don't know yourself, you don't know how to counter values, you don't need or talk about values, you don't know how to, then I understand wanting to date for 1 or 2 years. That's the conversation. But also there's arranged marriages that work out for people. There's meeting once and kind of making it. So it depends on why you want to get married. What kind of relationship do you want? Again, this is all, are you looking for a soulmate, like a person that's so designed for you? How could you say no? Are you looking to settle into a relationship that's comfortable? All these questions, guys, can I be a matchmaker? I want to be a matchmaker where I'm like, I can ask people questions and I can gauge how serious they are. Like if you watch Love is Blind season 3, Colleen had this thing where people wanted to have deeper conversations with her. She's like, yeah, I don't really talk about bad stuff. I've never been traumatized, so I don't have to be deep about my life. Do you hear this girl? This girl thinks being deep means I have to have trauma. Versus I was like, this girl had never had existential dread or she never faced it. Maybe she had never had trauma she talked about. But I need someone who's like, oh yeah, bro. So this is how I feel about this. Like I need somebody who's already thought about these things so we can talk about them at this stage in my life. But if you're in your early 20s, you have plenty of time to learn those things as you grow. So again, where are you in life and what are you aiming to date? Play whatever game is going to help you reach your joy or maintain your joy. Memo Tape says, how do you know you're on the same path when you live so far apart from your partner? I mean, we just talk. You know what I mean? I know other couples aren't talking to each other, and that is why your relationships are fucking so stupidly toxic. But I'm sorry, that was so judgmental. I'm sick of people who never talk to their partners, who are never honest with their partners, being like, how do you know your partner? No, because you talk to them. You communicate. I mean, ruthlessly, meticulously, honestly, transparently. You rip apart their arguments. You talk it through with them. You double check. Like the idea that our distance in a modern age where we can talk on the internet all day. Guys, there are people on the internet who have never had a single conversation with me who are always like, I know exactly what Brittany's thinking. And I'm like, and you guys don't think a guy I talk to 8 hours a day won't finally know something about me? Do you know what I mean? When you talk all day, when you message all day, when you talk about work and books and literature and philosophy, when you go, hey babe, do you see this news story? What do you think about this? When you're constantly inquiring, Okay? You know what I mean? You learn as much as you want to know about a person. That's why I don't trust people who are like, I'm forever alone. I can't make friends. And I'm like, I just don't think you guys want to. If you want to get to know someone, you will get to know someone. And you will be willing to let them get to know you. But you might be young and not have the tool yet to know how to do that. So remember, it's also a tool set. But yeah, I think a lot of people whine about, I don't have friends, I don't have lovers, I don't have relationships, but they put in zero effort. And I see it. They put in faux effort. They put in the effort that they think is effort. Going on a date with your you go on a first date and you go, hi, how are you? Oh, good. How are you? And then you're having conversation, it's flowing. And somebody says to you, hey, how do you feel about politics? And maybe you're completely indifferent to politics. Maybe you tell a white lie and you're like, oh, I voted in the last election, but you didn't. Okay, you've already started off the foot with something that's small, but so stupid to lie about. Why would you do that? And that says more about you than anything else, that you're willing to lie over something so dumb. Just say, I don't follow politics, actually. And then if the person you're with really doesn't like that, then they can break up with you, and that's a good reason to break up. But when you're getting to know someone, when you're asking them questions, it's not about distance. It's about time you've spent getting to know that person. Like, again, it's so hard and it takes a lot of effort and there's a lot of pain in long distance relationships. But again, if you really want to know someone and you're on the same page, then being long distance shouldn't last very long anyways. With me and my partner, we're really lucky. Long distance doesn't have to last very long. But with other couples, long distance has to last long. So that's kind of shitty. But again, you talk, you write letters, you get to know them. People show you who they are. You just have to pay attention. But most people are in denial of this. Most people will be like, I made a great effort. I did this thing. I did it. But did you? Or did you do the half-assed version of it? Example, let's say you have a friendship or let's say you really want a friend. And you're like, I never have friends. But your inbox is full of people who are like, hey, talk to me. Hey, hang out with me. And you're like, nobody ever wants to be my friend. Well, yeah, if you never return the emails, if you never return the calls, if you never show up to the brunch, if you never go to bowling, you have a bowling league in your neighborhood. Your friends all bowl, but you don't show up to bowling. It's like, bros, you gotta put in the effort. You gotta see that people want you. It's the same. I have, oh my God, so many friends, countless friends, so many people in my life. I love them all who are like, I want a boyfriend. Every guy is hitting on them every second. They're like, no one ever hits on me. And I'm like, what are you talking about? People are always hitting on you. Just say it out loud. You don't like anyone that's hitting on you, which is not the same thing. You feel me? That's not the same thing. So again, the way we're framing our understanding of somebody else comes from our understanding of ourselves. I understand myself so well. My partner understands himself so well that of course we could come together and regardless of distance, create an insane amount of intimacy, right? Yeah. Now to know if you're on the same path again comes down to values. But I already knew that. When I met him, I was like, oh, cool. This is what you're doing with your life. This is what I'm doing with my life. Do you want to combine lives? Like literally, I was like, oh, you're doing this. I'm doing this. And our lives were just compatible enough to bond them together. Yeah. So that's, you know what I'm saying? You talk about it. Be curious and excited. Like it's just, yeah. Okay. I lost the chat again. Yeah. Archetypes is a good word from Jung. Absolutely. Q2 says, I think even people with mental illness don't like to hang around with other people with mental illnesses. I don't know. Everyone I know is mentally ill. Not really, not literally, but no, I like them just fine. I have no problem hanging around with anybody as long as they're working on themselves. That's my rule of thumb. I think what you mean to say is no one wants to hang around with people who aren't working on themselves. That's why we don't like laziness in people. But laziness gets mistaken for different versions of the self. So the reason we don't want to hang out with certain people is not because they're mentally ill. It's because they're not working on their mental illness. That's different. Nobody wants to be around people who aren't working on themselves because they're Debbie Downers. They bring you down. They're negative Nancy's. So again, I think people want to be around people who are working on handling their shit. You know? Giro says, Brittany, are you nervous at all after spending 24/7 with your fiance? I mean it in a way that's not that it's a bad thing or anything. Oh, great question. No. We've already tested out some stuff, obviously. And no, I'm not worried about it at all. I'm pretty sure I've already made a bet with myself that the worst we'll ever argue about is like chores. And even though chores are breaking up everyone's relationship on the internet, him and I are not like that. He's very good at helping. He's very good at being thoughtful. He thinks ahead. He can already like, hey, what are we doing today? So what do we need today? Like, we're both very efficient, actually. Funny enough, we're procrastinators, but we're efficient. So I'm not worried about spending 24 hours with him. I'm a very needy person. He's needy, but we're also really good at giving each other space. So I don't know. I just feel like it's going to be great. And since we're so open to things going uncomfortable because we haven't lived with each other long term, I think it's going to be better because it's like, oh, hey, look at this thing we both are like, about. And again, I think it's just going to be about chores. I'm almost positive because we like when we're together, we're so, guys, it is the least stressful interaction with another human I've ever had in my whole life. Interacting with this man is the easiest social interaction I've ever had in my whole life. It's just the easiest, chillest person I've ever met. Like he knows what he wants. He's pretty good about having opinions. If we talk about where do we want to eat tonight, what mood are we in, we just start we're like very like team buildy. Like it's just the most chill environment. So there's little to no stress involved. Can I be real? I feel like the biggest stress in this relationship is my job. Because my job is so stressful. It's hard. It's like, I know everyone on the internet plays like this tough game of like nothing hurts me, but it's pretty painful for your family and friends to see the internet think you're a bad person in like a very particular way. Or it's very hard for people to worry about you, about stalkers and people threatening to murder you. Like the internet is a very scary job, but I think it's worth it. Every job has its potentiality for danger. And this one is just a different kind of danger. And I don't think many people think about it. But I think that might be the most stress in this relationship so far is just like the constant fear of don't post that picture. Don't say our location. Don't say my name. And it's like, you know what I mean? It's like that kind of stuff is scary. Like in a normal person's life, in America at least, you could just give your phone number and name to somebody and it wouldn't be a big deal. But because I'm a content creator, I'm always like very anxious about it. So again, I'm not worried about us living 24 hours together. I think it's going to be so fun. But it's just because he's chill, bro. He's like, we're both so chill that it's, you know what I mean? Izzy, good point, Izzy. Izzy says, I thought being an auntie made you into an automatic matchmaker. I mean, honestly, though, I feel like I tell my siblings this all the time. Like, I know who your partner is. I just haven't found them yet. But I know the trope or the characteristic or I know the archetype. I know the thing. I know the categorization where I'm like, okay, this isn't your person. This is close though. But it's more like this. It's really strange. But I think I believe in categorization so much that I think like types of people belong together. And it's, you know what I mean? And it's not just like, oh, you're this category and I'm this category, so we're good together. No. It's you're this category and this category, and you're the consciousness that goes with this consciousness. So it's much deeper than just saying, oh, on paper, we're both compatible. It's also we're compatible and the consciousness that you are. You ever date somebody who's like perfect, but not perfect? You're like, what the fuck is wrong with me? It's because they are perfect on paper, but they're still missing either the va-va-voom, or maybe you have the va-va-voom, but not the paper. You can date good people and still not be compatible, right? If you're looking for that soulmate love, if you're looking for settling, if you're looking for companionship, if you're looking for something that builds over time, that's different. Great comments. Ooh, Izzy says true connecting with people requires pinning down who you are, and that might be a scary process for some individuals because it requires a ton of vulnerability. So true. Can I be honest with you? I have had such a hard time over my life being vulnerable, letting down my walls, letting people in, and I've gotten better over time. Of course, therapy really helped. But this last partner, guys, it felt like I put myself in like a little package, and I was like, I hope you like it. And then he looked at it and he was like, I love it. And I was like, oh my God. And then he handed me him and I was like, oh my God, I love it. Versus before, when someone would hand me themselves, it would be like without the lid. And I'd be like, oh, it feels like it's not a full thing. Like I'm not getting the whole picture. And then or for me, that's what changed things is I felt like when other people dated me, they were lying, but to be fair, everyone fucking lies apparently. It's like, when did lying become so prevalent in culture? Maybe it's my bubble. My bubble, like this is very abnormal. But anyways, not abnormal in a survival way, but abnormal in a lying on a date way. Like, why are you lying on a date? Like, it's so weird because you're trying to get the second date. It's like, yeah, but if you have to lie to get the second date, you're not going to get a fifth date. And then if you get married, you're going to get divorced. Everyone is so afraid of divorce. Well, maybe stop lying to your fucking partners. Unless they specifically consent to that. I lost my train of thought. Oh, vulnerability. So I feel like in the past, even I couldn't give myself to someone fully. But with this partner, I'm so ready for love. Like I'm so ready for a husband or a wife. I'm ready for commitment that it was easier for me to prepackage everything that was me. Be like, here, what do you think? Yes or no? I already worked on this. Yep, this is my shit. This is what I did wrong. Here's where I'm an asshole. What do you think? It's like very vulnerable inside, absolutely. But I think the attitude I went in with was like, hey, I've really been working on stuff. Here's what I'm working on so far. What are you working on? And then he went, hey, I'm working on this stuff. And we looked at each other and went, cool. So we're kind of in the same area of our lives, right? Hold on, Indiana needs to leave the room. Ouch. So again, what we're really doing is we're learning to have a relationship with ourselves so we can have a relationship with somebody else. We're learning to have a relationship with our existing so we can have a relationship with our existence. We're learning to have a relationship with our existence so we can have a relationship with our existing, right? I'm trying to say applesauce, crust, apple, whatever they call it. Okay, so, my brothers have a shop downstairs and that smell is awful. I wonder what they're doing. Anyways, I'm going to go out. I'm going to leave soon to go check out my brothers and to start moving stuff. But this is like my obsession in life is figuring out who I am, who are they, what are we doing? Because again, like I just did that collab. Like I don't want there to be a judgment about the rejection. I don't want there to be a judgment. Do you know what I'm saying? About where we've been and where we're going and whether or not we stay together. I want it to be judgment free. Okay. Nero says, have you ever thought about being autistic and having ADHD? I am autistic and I relate to that lying thing so much. And that sounds so autistic to me. I think it's just my upbringing because either my whole family's autistic or we just have a value system that says don't lie. Like, in Catholicism, lying is a venial sin. You have to go to confession. Not literally for a venial sin, but you should just like, I lied. Like lying is dishonest. And I don't know what culture is dishonesty okay. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I know it's tolerated. I know we let it slide. But is it actually okay to be dishonest? Or do we just let it slide because it's hard to be vulnerable? Do we just let it slide because it's convenient? Do we just let it slide because we don't want to deal with it? Do you know what I mean? Why do we think being dishonest is appropriate? So I don't think I have autism, though I am borderline, so that's pretty neurodivergent, and I'm, you know what I mean? So I don't think it's that. I could have ADHD. I have a couple of siblings that have ADHD, but I don't think it's that either. I think it's just literally the way I was raised, the people I was raised with, and then on top of that, like my real sense of morality. I think morality might look autistic, maybe. Memo Tape says, did you ever suffer from understanding things from so many different perspectives? As in, did it ever cost you your sense of self-reality? Yeah, I mean, that's how I started bubble popping, right? I grew up bubble popping. I was in a religion that I really loved and I thought God was real. And then I had a bubble popping moment where I learned something from somebody that I was like, wait, you do what now? Wait, what's your life? And that forced me to change who I was. Yeah, for sure. I think at this point, because I'm just open to whatever is true and whatever change is necessary, it doesn't feel like I'm going to shatter my reality again. It just feels like, okay, cool. Now we're doing this. Versus before, it felt like I was shattering and shattering and shattering and shattering and shattering my reality constantly over and over again. And that felt really scary. So I did feel like I lost it for a second there, and I was having this existential dread where I was like, oh my God, am I gonna get lost to insanity? But then I was like, oh no, okay, cool. Ground yourself again, which is again goes back to values. Yeah, I don't think I needed to risk losing myself in insanity. I don't have mental health problems that would really do that. And then of course I got a handle on my stuff pretty early on. So yeah. I think Brittany said she was dyslexic. Yeah, for sure, bros. For sure. I've never been formally diagnosed with dyslexia, but I think it's pretty fucking clear I have dyslexia. Like, it's fucking hard. Like, yeah, I think it's pretty clear. So it's like, do I need to get diagnosed for that? Like, I function. You know what I mean? Yeah. Okay, guys, I'm going to definitely head out because I'm getting very hungry and I'm losing my spoons. But great convo, great last live show for the month of May. I will be back in June. So please have fun without me. Enjoy other people's live shows. Check out Erudite. Check out all the other cool people. Check out Kidology. I'm very excited to watch their content while I'm away, so you'll probably see me in the chat, but I need to head out, and so I will be moving and doing things like that. If you want to book a call with me in the Pacific time zone, 8 a.m. Pacific to 8 p.m. Pacific, this is the last month to do it through Patreon. You can only book calls next month if you become a patron, which actually also allows you to become a Discord member. So highly recommend if you would like to book a call with me in May, or even for the last few days of April. Very limited time though. May is probably better. You'll have more options. May 1 through 13th. I will be taking calls at 8 a.m. Pacific to 8 p.m. Pacific. This is the time to do it only through Patreon. So if you guys would like to join us, please do. Also, if you don't want to do a call, but you do want to be a part of the community, please join my Discord where we have all the best fun. It is a small niche community, and the paywall not only helps me fund this channel, but it does keep all the trolls out and it does create a much better environment for us. So please, please, please consider that if that is the vibe you want, because it's a great place to be. Okay, I will see you June 5th. For the live shows. I will see you every Wednesday for the podcast throughout May. And I look forward to reading your comments and talk to you guys about it. I have some great podcasts coming up. The one this Wednesday is so good. I'm so excited. I had a guest and it went so well. And I'm just so excited for you guys to see that. Okay. I will talk to you soon. Bye. Bye.